Okay, with the hour being after 7, we have open the meeting of October 7th with a full set of members. First item of business is, we have an old one of February, for meeting notes, February 18th. And then we also have the last one, September 16th, so. What?
I asked it to be done separately.
Okay, all right. So make a motion for February 18th?
Second.
Second, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Abstain. I wasn't there,
okay. How do you know?
because it was just a renewal and my name wasn't on the minutes.
Oh.
Aye.
February 18th. That's all. Okay, next one, I'll make a motion, September 16th.
Second.
We have a second, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
And we have Phil abstain, because Phil wasn't here. That'd be
Thank you.
4-0-1.
That was an easy one to remember.
Yes, yeah.
Great.
All right, with that being said, next item up is at 7 o'clock, we have a public hearing. They're calling Article 17, whatever it is on the warrant. And what it is, we'll read it, whatever it is. Pursuant to Chapter Section 548 General Laws, the planning board will conduct a public hearing on October 7th at 7 PM in the main meeting room on a zoning article for proposed amendment to the Walpole zoning bylaw. The article is as follows: to see if the town will vote to change the zoning of the land owned by the town of Walpole with the address of 2400 Main Street, identified as Assessors Map 55, Block 99, Lot 1, consisting of 63.73 acres plus or minus from rural district to PSRC, which is Park School Recreation, or do anything to. And a complete text of this is available at the clerk or the planning board office. With that being said, since it was sponsored by us, and was sponsored by someone, take it away, Kate. Explain.
So this is pretty straightforward. There is no hidden agenda. It's nothing more than calling things what they are. The field parcel is currently zoned rural. However, Walpole has a zoning class of PSRC, Park, School, Recreation, Conservation. The property was purchased by the town with the intent to use it as fields. In 2013, Springtown meeting set aside funds to purchase this parcel from the state for the purpose of creating fields for recreational use. In December of 2015, the town took ownership of the land with a deed restriction to limit the use of land to active and passive recreational use. In our zoning, the purpose of rural is to provide an area for agriculture, open space, and lower density, single-family residential use. In our zoning, PSRC is to provide for areas supporting low-density municipal, educational, and recreational use. So this article is nothing more than a correction of zoning classification. And because there were some questions from abutters, I'd like to just clarify, this is only impacting this parcel of land owned by the town. It's not changing anyone's personal lot zoning. In addition to that, I just want to add that we did vet it. Jim Johnson sent it to town council and also out to the town boards to make sure that no one had any issue with it. And town council came back and she said she felt it was very straightforward. It was clear enough in its present form to move forward. And she said it accomplished the legitimate planning objectives that were intended. There was a second follow-up to town council because the building inspector had a question about how it protected the land. And she said rural zoning is traditionally more restrictive than PSRC. However, looking at the use table, it seems the other way around to her. She felt that this made sense and it protected the land. So I feel it's pretty straightforward. It's nothing more than calling a field instead of rural.
Okay. I'll read comments from the other boards. Well, I have one from Carl Engineering, and they do not have any comments or objection on the article. We have one from the Board of Health dated October 6th, and the Board of Health, its meeting October 5th, voted unanimously that the board has no concerns at this time. And I believe that is it for any questions or comments from the boards. With that being said, I'll open up. Anyone in the audience have a question, comment relative to this town meeting article? Okay, just like to summarize a little bit, did you talk about the deed restriction?
I mentioned it.
Okay, yeah. The property right now is deed restricted anyway, so you can't do anything. What's happened, this happened about 20 years ago, when we introduced the Park, School, and Recreation into our zoning bylaws, because if you look at all the other towns, you look, we're either residential or commercial. But what do you do with, like, the town forest? So at that time, it was decided, why don't we put it in? So we put things like the town forest, the high school, any big area in this, so that when you open up the map, you see, oh, okay. Because if you weren't, you're a developer or something, you go, oh, there's a piece, and it just made sense that, to identify what you have for park, school, and recreational areas in the town. That's all it was 20 years ago, and because this came forward, and we now have the fields up there, that's why we're here doing it. So, no one have any
I
questions?
just want to add one thing. So the question was asked, and I think it's pertinent. People asked if they wanted to expand the fields in the future, could they? If they fundraised and wanted to put in bathrooms or a snack shack or something to that degree, could they? Absolutely, they still could. There's rules and regulations. Obviously, a lot of that land up there is wet, so that would come into play, but changing it to the correct classification does not limit expansion or adding a snack shack or anything like that.
Okay, and you addressed the outside, right? That they can't do anything? This doesn't affect anybody. This,
Yep, it doesn't affect the
yeah,
abutters.
it doesn't affect the abutters, all it is within it, doesn't give anybody any more rights or any less rights. Actually, you don't even change. It's just renaming a field to a park, school, and recreation. So, that being said, if no objections, I will, the board, John, you have any questions or comments?
No, I'm just looking at the email we got a copy of. The issue that the select board member is raising, if Walpole has less rural land, can the developer push through a project, or can an abutting neighbor do something because they now bought a recreational versus rural zone land?
No.
Is there any,
No, because this is our land, it's just like you own your own house land, they can't do, it doesn't help them or, they can't do anything. They just, it's like it never happened for them.
what if a multifamily backed up onto that, where if it was a multifamily backing on a residential, it would be, have to have a buffer? Does
Yeah,
that
but-
still apply, or?
Well, because you're up, this is a, what,
It's
RB?
developed.
Yeah, this is in the residential area, so that, right up there in South Walpole, there is no general residence in this area that they could put a multifamily.
No, that's true, yeah. Okay, that's the only other issue
Okay,
I want to address.
you all set, Kate?
I'm good.
Okay, Phil?
I think we should answer the question we got from Mark Sullivan. He wanted to know if, I'm wondering about unintended consequences by changing the zoning from rural, from a Walpole perspective. For example, if Walpole has less rural land, can a developer push through a project, or can an abutting neighbor do something because they now border recreational versus rural
Basically
zone
what I
land?
just asked.
I don't know of anything, but I just thought we should mention that since he
Yeah.
did.
No, you can't, I mean, this doesn't give anybody anything, you can't just pop onto town land and do what you want. And reducing the rural land doesn't have anything to do anyway, because even if this was still stayed rural, it's on a deed restriction, so it's a non-issue, meaning if someone said you gotta count up all the rural land to develop, you'd look at, oh yeah, that's rural, but then you'd have to go deeper, and because it's on a deed restriction, you couldn't do it anyway. So this is just, it wouldn't even contribute to any of those factors, if there are any, but there aren't. So it doesn't give anybody any more or less.
And then I just want to also confirm that, looking through the use table, there's really not a lot of difference between rural and PSRC on the public institutional side of things. You know, so they're very, very similar all the way through, so it doesn't, you know, from that perspective, it doesn't really make a difference. And you might argue that the PSRC is a little more restrictive, actually, because it doesn't allow hospitals, for example, but,
Okay? You all set, Phil?
yes.
Sarah?
Yeah, all set.
You all set? Okay, I'll make a motion to for favorable action.
Second.
You have a second? Any discussions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, okay, done. All right, I'll pass. Okay, next item, before we get to, no, we'll do the master plan, and we had people here tonight who expressed interest to be on it, and do we have everybody here? We had 3 applicants, I know you, Dave. How many applicants, just?
Just three. They're all
Okay,
here.
all right, they're all right, geez, where's the list? I was gonna call them. If you wanna come up first, Dave, and explain. We know about you, but a little quick, and what you bring to the board, to the, master plan implementation committee, and for everybody in the audience and out here tonight, is with the master plan implementation committee, we are looking to fill it with 1 member at large from the town. The rest of it's filled by members of the selectmen, the zoning board, economic, and so on. So you do want a flavor of just an individual who lives in the town, and that's what we're here tonight to choose, so with that being
Mr.
said.
Chair? Yeah, I just want to clarify, it's not the implementation committee, it's the steering committee.
Okay, well,
Just a-
it's called the master plan committee, how's that?
I just want to be, because there's that other committee too, so that's,
Later.
yeah, but it's still,
After we have the
it's still on the
Oh, okay.
webpage.
Yeah.
All right.
Hi, my name's Dave Wildnauer. Thank you for seeing me tonight. I have an interest in serving on the Master Plan Steering Committee. I think I can contribute. I've been a resident of Walpole for 26 years. I've had my share of civic engagement. I've been an elected officer as a library trustee. I presently serve on the Library Endowment Board of Trustees. I've been on the Permanent Building Committee. I'm an architect by training and profession, and I think I'm, excuse me, quite conversant in issues of land use and zoning. I became quite interested in the master plan last spring when I was running for the planning board, so I actually got the old master plan out and dusted it off and read it. So I'm familiar with the old master plan, and I think it's a very important document, and we are crafting a new one. And I think I would have something to offer to that in a strictly advisory role as a member of a steering committee. And I have recently retired from full-time work, so I'm looking to up my volunteerism a little bit and get engaged a little more again, and I think this would be a good spot for me. So I would be honored to have a place to sit on that committee.
Okay, thank you. Ma'am?
Nancy.
Nancy, I'm sorry. I can't read my own writing, I'm sorry. I know your address, but I couldn't remember your name.
Well, my name is Nancy Dayan. I live in East Walpole. I've lived in Walpole for 27 years. I have been serving as a town meeting member for East Walpole for Precinct 1, 02032. I applied for this position because I'm interested in participating in helping to shape the future of our community. I have lived in Walpole, as I said, for 27 years. Professionally, I design organizational systems, so I'm very organized and very proficient at that. Before that, I was in advertising and marketing, so a lot of customer service, a lot of seeing and talking to and working with and helping a lot of different people from all walks of life. I participate in town with the recycling committee, with the farmers market. I volunteer at a local dog rescue. I handle all the social media for all of those organizations. I recognize how pushing out content and engaging people is really important through social media, as well as, of course, other channels. But I did watch the meeting the other night, and social media seemed to come up a lot. So I'm pretty proficient at that. For the past 3 years, though, I'm sure you read my resume and my cover letter. I have been very fortunate to have been volunteering on the Walpole Scholarship Foundation as a reader and reading the resume, why can't I think of the word?
Submissions.
Excuse me?
Submissions?
Submissions, yeah.
Applications?
What
There you go.
the kids write. It's high school kids and college kids, and it's really, it's a privilege to participate in that, to read what these kids write. They pour their hearts out in their essays. That's what I wanted to say, essays. What they go through as a community member, as a kid living in this town, their families go through. It's a little bit of everything. And then the college kids, they leave Walpole, they go out into the world, and what they write in their essays about what they've experienced having left town, it's eye-opening, it's heart-wrenching and heartwarming. And if anybody ever asks you to volunteer to be a reader for the scholarship committee, I would highly recommend it. It's really life-changing. So again, I'd love to participate. I watch a lot of the meetings and kind of try and keep up with what's going on. You know, when your board goes late and you say that one person's still watching, now you can say goodnight, Nancy, because it's me. But I know Ashley and I know David, and I know that you have great candidates to choose from. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. All right. Third candidate, Ashley.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm so nervous to stand up here. It feels weird being on this side of things. Ashley Clark, resident. I hail from East Walpole. I've not been a 20-plus year resident, but in the short time I have been here, I've really grown to love this town and all the wonderful things it has to offer. I saw the posting to be a part of this committee, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to get involved at this level. I love planning. I have an undergrad degree in planning and a master's degree in planning. I've spent a lot of time talking with folks in the town about different projects and things going on, so I've gotten to have some exposure to things that are happening kind of all over the place and not just in East Walpole. And you do have great other two candidates, so thank you for the consideration.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, so, time to decide. Someone wanna make a motion?
Jack, I would make a motion for Nancy. And my reason for that is, and by the way, I know Ashley, I know David, and I know how good they are, but my reason for that is I think it's good to have more, you know, they're very professional, you know, Ashley and David, and we have a lot of professional people on the committee. So I guess my rationale is maybe having another person who, you know, at large is, you know, been involved in the community for a long time and, you know, may represent the at-large position. So that's my rationale for that. But I don't want to take away from David or Ashley. You know, they both bring a tremendous amount of experience. Certainly, everybody would be, each of them would be a great candidate. So, but that's my own rationale.
Okay. All right.
I'd like to speak up for Ashley.
Okay.
I know I've been in contact with her on various boards, and she's always been very professional, and she's very knowledgeable of the subject. I think she will put out a great effort and although Phil's right, we want to get a good balance of everything. I think she has a good outlook as to how the town needs to grow.
Okay. All right. Any more? Okay, okay, we're gonna have to make a second.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
Regardless of who gets picked, and I want to say it now before anyone gets picked, it's really important. All three of you have so much to add to this committee, and please participate. Please, even if you don't get on, you know, this is just the steering committee, but what's most important in my eyes is the open meetings and the participation, because we need a broad sweep of everyone's views. So whoever gets chosen, great, congratulations, and whoever doesn't, the other two candidates are also fantastic, so please participate, because we need that.
I'd like to echo what Katie just said also, yeah.
Okay. All right, so we have two, so do we have a second?
I'll second Ashley based on just her experience with South Walpole and the 40B experience we just went through and all of that, because I think, you know, it's gonna be a big part of our discussion, and I think that her experience and knowledge can help us that way.
Okay, we have a second. All right, any further discussion on this? Second, okay, all those in favor of Ashley, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstain, or whatever. I don't want to say opposed, but, so,
We'll make it unanimous.
okay.
Yeah.
So Ashley,
Yeah.
okay. All right, I hate to, you can't have a vote where you,
Yeah, it'd be
You're
nice if we
saying,
could get all of you.
yeah. so-
Yeah,
okay,
we could use all
That-
three of them.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, so it's five, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you for your time.
3 great candidates.
Okay, now, next one, 7:15, Ironwood.
I have big plans if anybody. I know. It's for Jack, right? I don't know, pitching.
Okay. So Ironwood, where we chop all the trees so we can have solar. Okay, I'm gonna read while Mr. Mackey is getting it together. I'll give you- All right, notice hereby given the planning board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, October 7th, 7:15, main meeting room, site plan application from the Ponset Solo, 128 Lafayette, Louisiana. How's that? None of us will ever be down there. With respect to property located at 455 South Street, assesses map 41, parcel 71, zoning industrial district. We have the industrial, we have SPOD, and we have Resource Protection Area 3. The applicant is seeking site plan review under Section 13 of zoning bylaws to allow redevelopment of existing gravel pit to allow construction of an array of ground-mounted solar panels, including seeding of an underlying meadow, drainage management, utility interconnections, and other appurtenances shown on the plan by Neponset Solar, dated July 30th by Craig and Lansing. And with that being said, the hearing is open for anybody here tonight that's never been here. What we'll do is we'll allow the applicant to present what he has, and once that's done, I will read any comments from any boards, committees, or public that sent this to us, and after that, I'll turn it over to the members, and at the end, anybody has questions from the audience, we're gonna ask you to come up and identify yourself, and you can be on TV too, but just hold your questions, because typically you'll find maybe your answers already been given during this whole process. So with that being said, Mr. Mackey?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Phil Mackey, Mackey and Mackey, 1256 Washington Street, Norwood, Massachusetts, is counsel for, and on behalf of the applicant, with me tonight is Hamilton Carrier from Ironwood / Neponset Solar, Dale Knapp, and I totally spaced on Greg's last name, Greg Dixon, who was the engineer on this project. I can talk and pass things out as we go. So you may remember, we were here last spring, and I promised Sarah a ton more plans, and I think we delivered. And if there are any other questions, we will be happy to provide whatever it is you guys need. There you go. So before we get the engineers up here, I'd just like to go briefly through the memorandum. It's not my intention to read the whole thing, but hit the highlights. I think everyone would appreciate that. And again, as we discussed last fall, Harwood Engineering owns a significant lot of land. It's about 21.8 acres on South Street. Pardon me there. And they intend to stay there. And I believe this may have caused some confusion We are not proposing to put a solar array over the entire property because about 3 acres is going to stick with Harwood Engineering. As we get a little further through the process, and we're confident, based on discussions with your board and the Conservation Commission, that the lot lines are where they need to be, we will submit an A&R plan to separate the 2 parcels out. They will both conform to zoning. There won't be any, we both have frontage, both have the circle, both have more than adequate area. But we are erring on the side of caution, just in case through the hearing process something makes sense to change. Right now, it's just lines on paper. We can accommodate pretty much anything the town is interested in. But presently, as far as the part of the site we're discussing, and is really the focus of this site plan, is an old gravel pit. It hasn't been used for years. There's some scrub back there. You actually have to walk through some wooded areas and wetlands, which actually look fairly nice on South Street. And then once you kind of get back to the disturbed area, it's a very different scene, which I actually didn't know until I looked into this property a little bit more, because I don't think I've ever stopped, other than maybe to go to PJ's store up the street a little bit. So we are proposing a driveway in through the wooded area, but other than the driveway, the first several hundred feet aren't going to be disturbed at all. And then putting the array behind effectively was a wooded buffer to South Street. So in reality, you won't see any of the array, or very minimal parts of the array, from the street. So for most intents and purposes, no one's actually going to know this is there. PJ is slightly elevated, so potentially his horses or chickens or whatever he's got back there might see some of it, but that's really about it. So as far as satisfying the site plan review criteria, the first criteria is whether or not it's basically in character with the surrounding area with regards to height, mass, setbacks, etc. We submit that there actually are no buildings being associated with this. The array itself will be less than 15 feet as required by the bylaw. And there won't be anything really other than woods and a meadow, if you will, because the area around the array itself will be seeded with the conservation mix, and preferably, and we anticipate something that will encourage pollinators, small animals, etc. So I would submit that yes, in fact, this does meet that criteria. As far as the site development criteria for section 13.982, we'll get further into that as we go through the memorandum, mainly because there's a whole section under section 15 in the bylaw that regards those. As far as 9A3, sign and design guidelines, unless you, in your capacity as the planning board, want more signage, this is probably the most minimal we've ever proposed. Pretty much, we want a very small sign that just says the name of the owner and here's your emergency contact. This is not a site that is anticipated, let me rephrase that. There is no retail traffic or anything that's normally associated with the site plan, and therefore we're not looking to attract drive-by traffic or interest or what have you. In fact, the fewer people that go there, the happier I think we'll be. So we have very, very minimal signage, and again, certainly if the board feels otherwise, happy to entertain it. And that will also go on to lighting, which we'll be talking about here shortly. As far as the master plan and open space and recreation plan, I read through this, read through all 3 of them, and they all talk about them basically as something good for Walpole. But I didn't find anywhere that said, hey, this site is better than that site. The open space plan does actually reference the use of a landfill space and brownfield spaces. These really aren't either of those, but I would suggest that a former played out, if you will, gravel pit is probably as good a site as any for solar. So I don't think, I don't believe there is a section I can point to and saying, hey, this is there, and you just interviewed for someone on the master plan. It might be something we actually want to think about going forward, but that's neither here nor there at this point. As far as protection of site features, natural and man-made, We have some wetlands that are basically between where the array will start and South Street. We'll be filing a notice of intent with conservation. We haven't done that yet, but we will be doing so shortly. But other than those, there really are no important man-made or natural features. There is, we believe, another wetland that's actually off the property to the north, and we'll go over that again with conservation. I would note that we have walked the site with Landis last spring in anticipation of town meeting, but we have not filed with them, the Conservation Commission, and so we're not making any statements other than she knows about the project, and we have some work to do there too. As far as protection of adjoining premises, we've submitted a fairly, I believe, thorough drainage report and a lighting plan, and I think those will adequately show that we're actually making the drainage condition better by reducing some slopes and putting in better vegetation, et cetera. As far as lighting goes, and I think this, I'm probably skipping towards a section, we're really not planning on putting lighting on the site. Again, we're looking at having a very small crew show up once a month, maybe less. So other than emergency lighting at the access gate, unless your board wants it, we're really not suggesting to do terribly much more than that. And that's really just for the safety of first responders if for some reason they have to go at night and get in the front gate. So we believe that adjoining premises are adequately protected by this. The next section talks about vehicular and pedestrian traffic, which I kind of alluded to just a moment ago. We are not anticipating any significant, once construction is done, traffic on this site of any type. And Hamilton certainly can get into the specifics of his maintenance plan at the appropriate time. But suffice it to say, there's going to be very small crews. We actually believe they can park on the access road because, again, they're not there for 24/7. They're just there to do some maintenance and get out. This is not, again, a normal site plan where we could have anything from apartments to retail. This is as minimal a use as I've seen in a long time. That goes right along to the adequacy and arrangement of parking spaces. We're asking you to consider that 0 is an appropriate number for this project, as we have hundreds of feet of roadway and we're expecting maybe 3 or 4 cars at a time, once a month or less. So there doesn't seem to be a need to disturb the area more, but certainly there's plenty of room. If it's something the board wanted, we could do something along those lines. But I would suggest that we don't really need it, nor would it increase safety to any degree one way or another. As far as consistency with dimensional regulations, we would submit that as shown on the plans, the lot currently does, and when we bring forth an A&R plan, the resulting lots will conform to all of the zoning requirements. We're well aware that Harwood has existing buildings, and so whatever plan we give you, we do have a draft, but it might be a little bit premature at this point. We will make sure that the Harwood building remains conforming, not just to setbacks, but also to impervious coverage. We can keep it under the 15% that's allowed by right under the Area 3 requirements, so they don't have to come forward for a special permit. So their business can continue on uninterrupted and basically unimpacted by this. As far as the site development guidelines go, the first one talks about preserving natural features, and again, at the risk of repeating myself, there are several wetlands in the front of the site, if you will, again, between where the array is going, the old gravel pit, and South Street. But other than that, there really isn't much. That will be, or any work in that area will be under the jurisdiction of conservation as well as yourself for site plan. And of course, we will comply with whatever order conditions is ultimately issued. Second one is protecting slopes in excess of 15%. At this point, there probably, or we are anticipating there will be some slopes in a few areas of the project that will be in excess of that, and I'll leave that up to Greg to discuss the stabilization. But in general, we are flattening and lessening the slopes throughout the site, basically to make the solar array to be able to function. So the flatter the better, but it is a gravel pit, so there's, in some areas, only so much we can do. But again, we believe everything, it will be stabilized to your satisfaction and Carl's as well. As far as building structures, fences, lighting, being placed so as not to interfere with traffic circulation, we would submit that nothing is going to interfere here with South Street. Again, you will drive down the road, you will see a driveway into the woods, and that would be about it. And given the very minimal amount of traffic going into the site, it's not like you're looking for the backup at a drive-through. So again, there shouldn't be any impact to South Street or the area. As far as section 10A4 goes, talking about roadway and driveway designs, we're not building a road, we are building a driveway, and we'll make sure that in accordance with the review, the proper site distances and other requirements are complied with as far as both horizontal and vertical alignment, and we're well aware of the road at that point. I think we have designed a good driveway entrance. As far as illumination for parking lots and other areas, I will simply say that, as I've mentioned before, there are no parking lots, and again, the only illumination we're really looking at is the entrance gate, unless public safety dictates otherwise, in which case, of course, we'll comply with what is requested. As far as paving of the driveway, we are asking that the driveway actually be a gravel access driveway, both for drainage, both for the impact, and again, given the minimal amount of traffic, we believe it is more than adequate and more environmentally both sustainable and supportable than just putting in pavement for very little benefit. As far as utility transmission systems being placed underground where applicable, we agree with that. So there's really not a lot to be said for there. And again, Greg can go into the details as you wish. The same thing with drainage standards. We believe that all the surface water runoff, which if you've looked at the zoning chart, and I kind of passed over that to go back briefly, we are anticipating that at the end of the day, plus or minus, there will be 2.9% coverage of the site. So we're nowhere near any thresholds of 15% or higher for the watershed, for the underlying zoning. And so again, over such a large area, we believe our drainage will be more than adequately taken care of. And again, we're flattening the area, and we actually believe better controlling the water because currently it's just kind of flows where old gravel pits flowed water. And then we have to get into the requirements of Section 15 itself. The first requirement for a site control plan, we believe we filed that. Let me rephrase that. We did file a site control plan that we have access, and ultimately will purchase the property should your board grant the appropriate site plan and we get through the order of conditions. As far as the operations and maintenance plan, we have submitted that with the application and are certainly happy to address that in detail either here or separately with the town engineer, planner, et cetera. As far as noticing the appropriate utility company, we submit that we provided notice to Eversource of its intent to build. We have received a response from Eversource saying that they're reviewing their proposal. And again, I will submit that we're well into that process, but Hamilton is probably better suited to answer your more technical questions about the length and actual moving through a public utility process. As far as complying with setback requirements in the underlying zoning district, Kentucky may have a frontage of 0. We will have several hundred feet, I believe 286 as it's currently proposed. When the frontage is split off from Harwood, which has slightly over 700 linear feet of frontage, we will have 18 acres. We will more than exceed any dimensional setback. And as I've said, all of our solar equipment will be less than or equal to 15. I actually think it's all less. But as soon as I say that there's none at 15, I'll be made a liar out of. But nonetheless, we comply with all of the dimensions and the requirements of the bylaw for section 15. As far as the design standards for lighting, signage, parking, and utilities, we've already gone through that. There is some repetition in the bylaw, so I'm not going to simply repeat myself. As far as complying with safety and environmental standards, including those for emergency services and land clearing, we believe that we have accounted for sufficient emergency services, and that our construction plans and land disturbance plans and habitat plans all take into account all of the other considerations. Again, as far as maintenance of the facility, we submit that if we follow the procedures that are outlined in the operations and maintenance plan, the facility will be in good shape for as long as it is operated. And we will make sure that the gravel road and whatever other access the fire department needs, requests, will also be maintained. I'm assuming Paul's got a comment, but we haven't seen them yet, so I can't speak to that in any more detail at this point. And then as far as a bond, we are proposing a $197,346 bond. And again, we can go over how we arrived at that number, but that's based off of similar projects in other places. I talked briefly with the planner. Actually, I guess he's the community development officer, who had some comments about that this morning. We're certainly happy to modify that or meet whatever methodology he feels may be, I won't even say more appropriate. And I don't want to speak for him either, but we're happy to have a discussion. So we come up to a mutually acceptable number and bond. And the reason I'm saying it that way is there aren't that many out there, so we've all kind of just taken other examples of what has been done here. And in speaking with them, some may apply, some may not. So it's not like we're trying to get out anything, we're just trying to get to the best result for everybody. So that is pretty much my walkthrough of the zoning bylaw. With your permission, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. You have a plan you want to roll out so people can see here? Because you get people in the audience and at home.
That's just the entire plan. The small plans that you guys have in front of you.
Yeah, but we're doing a public hearing, you got people in the audience and people at home, so. We have a big one here. Okay. There's a guy in the audience who'll probably rent you his easel for about $10,000.
I can just hold it.
Oh, you're gonna wanna point to it as you're doing it.
Well, maybe Greg can point more.
Put it over here, so it's,
Need a Vanna wipe.
yeah, over
Facing
by the,
audience, yeah.
right at the podium.
Where do I go in here?
You can, right there.
Yes.
I'll hold it. Why don't you start, Greg?
Yeah,
Doesn't have to turn that way.
I'm Greg Dixon with
Or
Krebs and
face
Lance.
the audience, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, if you want a kitty corner so anybody on this side can see too.
You can see the TV in the back will give you a good idea.
So I'm Greg Dixon with Krebs and Lansing, the project engineer. I think Phil did a really good job of kind of showing and explaining what we're trying to do. But here is the picture of what we're trying to do. Harwood Engineering will stay relatively, or pretty much 100% the same. Our project and our driveway, the driveway will be pretty far down from their driveway, and the project will be well behind their building. I don't have too much more to add to Bill's explanation of the project, more to just show you the plan and then I guess answer any questions as you guys have.
Okay, that plan, it's the first time it's being seen on TV or the audience, just kind of show them the area of the property and identify the different areas for people. It's way in the woods, most people don't know where it is.
My name is Dale Knapp, I'm a soil and wetland scientist with BRI, Environmental Supporting the Iron Project. So this here is Harwood Engineering existing building. This line right here is South Street. If you've been up and down South Street, actually, it's worth mentioning, the proposed access road is the existing former access to the gravel pit. So there's a line of kind of 4 stones that you can see as you drive through between the pines. They're hard to see, obviously, because it's grown up quite a bit. So the pines that Phil mentioned are right along in here. You'll see the wetlands that he referenced are here. This wetland over here is the one along the northern boundary that occurs off the property, but thankfully Landis, during the site visit, pointed it out, was able to provide us with some publicly available data, so we were able to put that on our plan, even though it's off-site, so we respect a 100-foot setback from all those resources. They are jurisdictional wetlands. They don't border any water courses, so they're not BVWs, but we're still respecting that 100-foot setback. You can kind of see the access road kind of goes through the old gravel pit access, and the old pit, that's kind of right in here, and then that's where the facility is proposed. Any other infrastructure to point out, Greg?
No, just that the property line is kind of the darker line that kind of surrounds the parcel, labeled with all of the distances.
Okay, I'll do it, the rest of it for you. For most people in the town, they know what Southridge is, and that store's up there and down the back, along past the wetlands is actually on Southridge property. You go down, that's where he does all his grinding of his, makes his mulch down there. And through the woods a little bit, you can just industrial road off of 1A, and there's nothing below you, so it's, there's nothing around you guys other than Southridge and Howard. So, and yeah, that's been there, gravel pit. I don't think it worked when I was a kid, so, just so everybody has an understanding of it. And the Howard Engineering, I know they did some tree clearing of recent, last few years, but it's in the middle of kind of nowhere there.
Yeah, and those large pines that you see right along South Street are all proposed to remain intact, so provide a very significant visual buffer. As you can't see that open pit when you drive down South Street today, you should be able to see the solar project when it's up and operational tomorrow, or if you so choose to approve.
And it's, just run your finger along where the panels are gonna be so people can see, kind of like,
This is the fence line here, and so the panels are inset from that fence line, but that will represent, the limit of clearing. It's shown in the plans we submitted.
okay. All right, since Phil, and you're all set?
I think so, unless you
Oh,
guys
well,
have
we
questions.
may have some questions from the audience or us, but if your presentation, I'll read the comments from the other boards. All right, first one, from the Board of Health. The Board of Health voted unanimously that they have no issues or concerns. Someday Phil will figure out if that's a yes, or just we like you, or, from the Police Department, Officer Luke Pollen, and the Police Department doesn't have any, public safety concerns, other than them going by you a little faster than they should. We had one 2 weeks ago, and they said they're the worst, some of the neighbors. Wetlands, you said you haven't filed, and we have something from Landis. First was an email, then it was a, Lynn Landis conservation agent, and then it was like a letter. And then what she said, there were 3 ways telling, I think, your associate, Phil, on how to file.
Yes.
File abbreviated notice, a determination applicability, and notice of intent. And with that being said, since you haven't filed, and just so we all understand, anybody here, is we will be the last, I don't know if you guys understand, and maybe the audience wouldn't, but we are the last, once you get through there. And the reason being is if something shifts, you'd have to start again if we closed. So the question I would have right now is when you guys gonna go there? Concom?
Sure. Next, so I guess what we gotta do is file, so the lines can be verified, so obviously we walk the site with Landis, and so we do respect that 100-foot setback from all wetlands. So applicability is something we need to resolve, whether or not we trigger the need.
Okay,
The short answer is the next 2 to 4 weeks.
okay, and how about the long answer, getting the hearing and wrapping that all up? January?
Probably.
Okay. Just so everybody here understands that you got a little bit of process to go with them, okay? I'll read another easy one. Well, we have one here from Patrick Duchesne, Director of Community Economic Development, and he goes through the submission requirements, and he indicated the proposed layout on sheet C-104. There does not appear any potential shading for nearby structures or vegetation. Sheet 102 indicates the applicant intends to clear 9.7 acres of the proposed 15.3 acre site. He talked about the 1 or 3 line electrical diagram, and he said compliance with this submission is exhibited in the sheets. Documentation of major system components to be used. Detailed information was provided, found on sheet 10.2.0. And as I'm reading these are all the requirements, so everybody understands. Name and contact information, and it's of the proposed installer and for the project, and the operation maintenance system is not known at this time. Okay, so, but the management comes under the Ponset Solar LLC. Are they looking for the system installer, or are they looking for the future keeping it up and running?
I believe it's the future keeping it up.
Yeah, that's what I think it is too.
We don't know yet.
Yeah, and you don't, and we wouldn't care who builds it because it's only a short time, okay. You might wanna get that cleared up with Patrick. Operation maintenance was submitted, complete documentation of stormwater. Drainage calcs are not provided, so I would defer to the town engineer, and I assume that's gonna go spin off of your wetlands too? You have to go through all that, okay. Proof of liability, and we have a copy. Financial security. Okay, so without reading the thing, it's just what you had said, Phil. You guys come out with $197,346 through something in the state of New York, but he wants someone qualified to show how you come up with that. Site control and security will be maintained with a 7-foot fence around the perimeter of the site. Is it 7? We only allow 6.
You're only allowed 6 if it's privacy fence.
It has to be 7 for electrical code.
Oh, okay, for the electrical code, okay. Wire it up. The applicant has submitted copies of the email exchange regarding utility notifications, dimensional requirements, and setbacks. Indicated that you have more than enough, as you said, frontage. The lot may be 0, provided that the necessary permanent rights of way are recorded in favor of the solar installation. Common driveway. According to your sheets, the frontage is about 736 feet, which complies. Now, yours isn't, right? That's Howard's.
That's the entire
Yeah.
site, and I had unfortunately not spoken to Pat until this afternoon after he issued this. And so he hadn't thought through, nor was he aware, because we hadn't talked about it, that we will be filing an A&R plan, so we don't need a easement agreement because each site will have its own frontage, each site will have its own access.
Okay, and,
He was trying to help us out, but
okay, and just so everybody understands, the A&R will probably be filed at the same time. Everything else is closed on your last day, right?
yep.
Okay.
That way you can vote the site plan on the right
And
lot.
if you always have to change a few,
Right. Yeah, I don't want to file it early, just like,
yeah, that you've got not enough
Right.
frontage or something like that, okay.
Mhm.
Height requirements shouldn't exceed 15, and you guys are showing 10 to 12, pertinent structures. He'd asked final locations of all related equipment in accordance with C 104. Lighting, you had indicated you didn't have it, so, and same thing with signage and parking, you indicated, that you don't have any, and he did indicate, and I was gonna say, I should have said, we didn't have anything from the fire department, so you have to build something for a nice little cul-de-sac or whatever.
We'll try and talk to Paul and get a
Yeah, 'cause we.
get a letter out of him some way.
Yeah, I should have, I'll mention that after I read this. So that's basically what you had from Pat Duchesne, the Community Development Director, and just to go back, what you're missing right now, sewer and water, because you're not hooking up anything. Fire department, and naturally the ZBA does not comment, so that's not an issue. So you got the fire departments, and, for that, the next or last one we have is from Town Engineer Carl.
Mr. Chair, we filed a letter to the board dated October 1st. There's only a couple of pages of comments on this. This is not the type of site we usually have a lot to say about. I'll go through the comments generally. On the cover sheet, we have comments that seem to be on almost all site plan reviews. We want the cover sheet to actually indicate that it is being filed for site plan review. We like to see the title reference for the property there, and some comments on the scale of the locus map that are all part of what your requirements under Section 13 want to see. On sheet C101, the existing conditions plan, we've only got a couple of comments, but they're important. We want a registered land surveyor's stamp on that plan, and we want a real perimeter. Based on Mr. Mackey's, or Attorney Mackey's discussion, we didn't realize that there was going to be an A&R plan here, and you will do a perimeter, so I imagine you will be able to get one, and you will have a mass RLS, and that person will take responsibility for the perimeter and for the topography. That's important. On the clearing and limit disturbance plan, no comments, and on the post-development drainage and erosion control and grading plan, sheet C103, we note that the quantity of gravel leaving the site should be estimated. We would like the driveway entrance from South Street, just the entrance, that's the apron from the edge of the travel way to more or less the right-of-way, that be paved. No curb will be required, but we would like it paved. We want you to show site distances at the driveway entrance. You will see that comment on every site plan that we review. The gravel driveway, we're recommending it be constructed at 20 feet, and that's just based on past experience with the fire department. If they yield to that, we will yield to it. And then we do note that the test pit and the proposed infiltration basin shall be witnessed by the town. One hasn't been performed yet. When we get that information, we will do a complete review of the drainage, whether we do it for this board or for the Conservation Commission. I have looked at it since we authored this letter, and I will have a few comments on it. There's no particular drainage problem down there now, nor do we want there to be one in the future. We asked for a little more detail on the driveway opening for spot grades. We're always conscious of that, so the roadway water stays where it's supposed to be. And then on the details, we note that an electrical trench should be provided. We have a question on the overhead management vegetation detail. It shows clearing to certain dimensions, angles from the property and whatnot. And it's not at all clear whether you intend to stay on your property, all right? But if you aren't, you should, unless you have agreements to be in other properties.
We'll stay on our side.
Our last comment is that we don't have any further comments on the remainder of the sheets. That's it.
Start with Sarah.
Okay. So in general, most of my comments are just, information that I'd like added. But I do have kind of the big outstanding question of fire. So we really need to hear from the fire department, because it's, electrical, and then also just as far as access and things like that.
Absolutely.
And then just to echo some of the things that Carl mentioned, we need a cover sheet that has all the information according to section 13 of the bylaw, such as nature of the project, that it's site plan review, legal description, zoning chart, and then regarding the locus plan. So specifically on fire, what I'm looking for is if the deputy chief requests like a fire lane or something to be kept clear, if he has any comments on the pavement or lack thereof, if there's a minimum width, if he requires any signage. And then also, whether or not he requests it, I'd like to see the dimensions of the turnarounds that you're proposing. I didn't see any identified.
Yeah, it's not mentioned right now, but it's about 30 feet in depth and
Okay.
20-foot radius.
Okay, so if you could just maybe like
Be on there.
add a small detail or something so we can see that. Regarding the site being in the water resource protection, just like to see a list of chemicals, either being stored or potential exposure from the site or from the use of.
Storing anything?
The batteries won't have much in them, but the transformers do have, an FR3 fluid, which is actually kind of like a vegetable oil. And then around that too, we're gonna have secondary oil containment, so like a stone moat.
Okay.
That'll sit around it, that has an oil reactive membrane, and if anything were to go wrong, it would go into that and lock up and keep everything right there. So we
Okay.
are doing we gave an SPCC plan to you as well as part of the drainage plan. So
Okay.
a lot of that information is kind of in there. I do think that's gonna be really the only substance that will be on site. It'll
Okay.
be in all the 3 transformers.
Okay,
The panels
so,
themselves are essentially inert, it's glass, so it doesn't,
Yeah, if the chair, through the chair, I just note that that is in the drainage report. I saw that actually after we produced our memorandum, and I would suggest that perhaps some of the details be lifted out of that and put on the site plan sheet so it's not obscure. And there is a containment, a concrete containment detail for the
okay, yeah, that's what we'd be
transformer. There's a
looking
whole discussion about the selection of the FR3 oil, et cetera, in that report. So you did a thorough job on that.
Okay. And then if you could note your snow removal plan, especially given that there's wetlands and water resource, if you're,
Sure.
just make sure that everything is clear with the wetlands and the water. And I see in your report, you noted the percent impervious. I expected it to be low, but if you could just add that also to the plans, because as you know, there is
Right in the
a
zoning chart.
trigger amount,
So
but,
everyone sees it.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. And then regarding the letter that Landis mentioned, she's effectively asking to remove that note saying that, you met with her or whatever. Like, I don't really think it fits on the
It's
plan.
Absolutely fine, because hopefully the note will be replaced with order of conditions
Right.
315-1234.
Which is, yeah, that's what we need. We don't need, we don't need this one.
Agreed.
Just to comment, are you expecting to get like an official letter from Eversource before the close?
Yeah, so we'll have an official, oh, by the way, Hamilton Carrier, 128 Domendity Boulevard, Lafayette, Louisiana. We were not in a group study for this project. It's an individual study, and we should be getting those results back in February with thumbs up to move forward.
Okay. So do we need that as a board before
do
we?
it. It says,
Yeah,
so
I thought
under section 8 in the, in section 15.
Yeah,
This is, the planning board, let me just read those sentences. No large-scale ground-mounted solar photovoltaic installation shall be constructed until evidence satisfactory to the planning board has been given to the planning board that the utility company that operates the electrical grid where the installation is to be located has been informed of the solar photovoltaic installation owner or operator's intent to install an interconnected customer-owned generator, as well as documentation from said utility that it can and will connect to the proposed customer, owner, generator into the power grid. So I think we actually need to have a letter from from Eversource.
Before we construct, I agree, but before you potentially close the hearing, I don't think you actually need that.
Well,
It's
it
one
it
of
is
the
saying that
requirements.
the planning board is needing it.
Yeah, site plan, is under the site plan review section.
I understand, but if you read or listen to what you just said, is we have to prove that we've notified them, which we absolutely can do. And we're not allowed to construct until we can prove that they said it's okay.
Well, just, let's take a second look at that and just make sure, I mean, maybe there's something they can give you, like it's underway, it's under study. I'm not sure, but we'll have to look at that.
We can provide those documents from Eversource saying that it's in study.
Okay,
And-
and we'll check again and
And
make
I
sure.
think one thing is, sometimes when we get those, these information, through the applicant from the, like Eversource, the utilities, an email, it'd be good to have a real letter, that has the letterhead Eversource. and-
There are a lot of things that'd be good, Phil.
Yeah,
I can't
that's
force
just
a
a-
utility company to put a letter out there.
But isn't the reality is you'd be pretty stupid to go put this up without having Eversource go, we'll take your electricity?
Yes,
Because if not,
because
it's
we
just
would
gonna
be
go
building
around and
it
around, right?
Yes. This would never actually get built if we didn't have someone connected to it.
Yeah,
I mean, we're not done tonight, we know that, so we'll look at this and make sure that the intent of the bylaw and the letter of the bylaw are followed.
okay.
But again, it's a utility company, it's kind of like the MBTA. They may get to you, but it also might be beyond any reasonable permitting
Right,
horizon.
right, okay. And just a question, are you proposing any like solid waste containers or nothing? Okay. And a question, the existing building, does it have parking there?
Yes.
And yeah, could you add that to the plan? I don't know if fire would, care about that, if there's any, like, if this driveway was blocked, would they consider going somewhere else and trekking through, or,
Can't because of the wetlands.
oh, there's no access way?
Here, the two wetlands are here.
Uh-huh.
So to get from our site to theirs, there's actually no,
So
No
if
way
that
without going
driveway
through.
is blocked, all bets are off?
this one,
Yeah,
you'd have to unblock it, but as absolutely no one lives there, or goes there or works there, other than 4 people twice a month, or, excuse me, once a month?
Yeah.
Once a month.
okay.
The concern I would submit is slightly less than if this was a retail use or a mall or grocery store.
I
Yeah.
do think a different access, if there was a real emergency, would probably be driving through this property, cutting it that way.
Okay, all right. Well, I mean, I'll leave it to the deputy chief to look at that, but I'm just guessing maybe. But if you say there's no way to go across, then it probably
At
doesn't
least not
matter.
to Harwood.
There's just
Yeah,
really
especially
big-
if you're gonna do an A&R anyway, so,
There's a pretty big earth embankment, or not, kind of like a ditch in
Yeah.
between Harwood and where this will be,
okay,
and we don't intend to fill that.
okay, okay. Okay, and then just a question on the light. I just wanted to clarify, because I think the plans or your submissions say that you're not planning any light, and I did look into it, and I think that's the recommended, course of action, which is fine. But then on this thing, I thought it said that there is gonna be security lights.
Only
So-
if you want it.
Oh, okay,
We're willing to work with the town.
okay, so
I'd rather not
it's,
have any,
it's
but-
there if we require it.
Yeah.
Typically, obviously, we're waiting on comments back from, fire chief or the deputy chief.
Uh-huh.
Usually a motion activated light by the gate, so emergency contact information is visible. It's a fairly common request, but if they're not looking for that, we'll follow your lead on that.
Yeah, I would be in favor of some kind of, emergency lighting. And then, if you're going to follow Carl's request of paving the first part of the driveway, then we just need like the details, of those 2 sections. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want to start off on sheet 1.03, and I can just ask my questions. So as far as the land shaping and how much gravel you're taking out, so are you looking to, I was going through looking at the elevations on the topographical map. Could you just describe a little bit how flat, are you, it looks like you may be sloped to the south, maybe? Is that my,
Kind of is more going to be like a dome.
okay, yeah,
Right now, there's quite a large hump of material right here, kind of where they stop digging in. And our plan is to take that hump out, but not take all of it out to just not have to take more material off of it than we need to. So it will kind of be a hump, but everything kind of sheds to the south on this parcel, and we intend not to change that. It will continue to shed to the south. We're just gonna take some of the more steep grades out of it and just kind of shallow it out and take some of that material off.
so are you looking to take a substantial amount, like 100,000 cubic yards, or?
I estimated it at about 65,000.
65, okay, yeah, and that goes back to Carl's question too. And then you're gonna fill in, I imagine, take high areas and fill that into.
Yep, and that actually goes to another point that Phil made. There will be some slopes on this site that are 3-on-1s, but those are only to get back to grade on certain areas. So if we're removing material and or filling in an area, we plan on having a 3-on-1 slope just to not push out into areas that we don't need to be in. And those areas will be erosion control with probably erosion control blanket. So there will be some pockets of that. Like I said, there is kind of an area over in here that's really steep, and they dug out in here a little bit, and we'll push some material into that and spread out some of the wealth as well.
And then you put topsoil on for planting the meadow, or you think that the dirt there would be sufficient for planting the?
I don't think we've really dove into that quite
Okay,
yet.
yeah.
We'd have to see what soil characteristics are out there right now, see if they're sufficient enough to maintain growth.
Yeah,
There
there
is
could
some,
be.
there is some topsoil out there on the site, and then also some of the shrubby woody debris could be brown on site mixed with some mineral material and provide a fairly decent base for the establishment of vegetation. But meadow cover will be something we have to establish underneath those panels.
That is the intent, to have it be a robust meadow mode
Yeah.
2 or 3 times in the season.
We applaud that part of it, doing the meadow, the pollinators for the area, that, that'll be, pretty good. There's not a road all the way around the perimeter, no need for that then, or?
We don't need it for the purposes of the project.
Yeah.
There is, I do have I think it's shown on one of the plans, there is enough room for a car or a vehicle to get around without smashing into the side of the panels or smashing into the gate.
Yeah.
And so we will have conversations with the fire department if that's adequate for mobility within the array. We also left this aisle in the middle, which is about a 30-foot width, in order to give people even further access around into the array. So there will be access around the array, and we feel the soils out there are kind of like a sandy, gravelly mix. If you need to drive a car around it, it's gonna maintain it. So that's what we plan. We don't plan to put in gravel everywhere.
And I think, I would also support not paving everything, and, the less we do that, that is good. So, as far as there was the diagram in the, I don't have the chart right in front of me, but as far as how much structure or how much concrete holds up the panels, it looks like they're single poles.
So, again, that may change based on the structurability of the soil. So there will be a structural engineer who will come in, do pull tests on the soil and determine what the loads are and what can handle. And they may decide we need to put concrete, but 90% of the time, these are just pounded straight into the ground. They're just metal I-beams, pretty similar to like a guardrail.
Yeah.
And they'll just pound them into the ground, and then sort of the structure itself being all those together, kind of like an erector set, kind of maintains the structure. And the panels will just mount onto that.
And that's good for when decommissioning, obviously. That's where I was going with it, by the way. So.
Yeah, you can just pull those right out of the
Yeah.
ground.
On the, there's the battery energy storage system. I'm just curious what that was, that,
Yeah, so I mean, one of the biggest problems with solar is it doesn't operate when the sun goes out. So the battery system charges during the day, kind of when, because the utility company can only take so much power at a time, and so there's obviously some overages that we'll need that can just either go away or we can store them. And this is a battery system that stores that energy and then send it out when the sun's not shining. So
that's a fair amount of capacity then?
yeah, I don't know the exact specifics on this one, but normally it would be like, I think, 4 megawatt for 5 hours. Sort of thing.
Okay,
So it can run, like the whole project will continue running for 5 hours after the sun's gone down.
And the system's 2.88 megawatts?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that, that's intended to kind of address an issue that we experience across New England, because obviously when everybody comes home to work, part of the year it gets dark, so we turn on everything in our homes, and so having that capacity available on demand will help balance sort of that demand curve at the end of the day. So batteries would be proposed fairly commonly with solar facilities.
It's also big for air conditioning load.
If I understood it right, all of the arrays go to the inverter, so it's DC just to they're centralized inverters?
This
And
will
then
not
a-
be a centralized inverter, they're called string inverters.
Okay,
So they'll
yeah.
be probably positioned right along here. They're just little boxes that are about 3 feet by 5 feet and maybe 1.5 feet. And they'll sit on the same posts, and DC will go into those, and then AC will go back to the transformer.
And is all that cable underground then?
That will be all.
Oh, underground, yeah, so for, snowstorms or weather,
There might be some above ground wiring underneath the panels, but that'll be it.
and then, as far as the emergency, we haven't, we haven't seen that plan, but it's good you have that, and, putting those details on the chart would be very helpful to all of us, yeah. So they only require a sign and a light, it sounds like, at the gate is what you're anticipating for the, and then,
They require, electrical code requires that there's a sign on the gate saying emergency contact, who to contact.
and then there's a need for the shut off, so is that something the fire department will,
Those will all be, there's actually 2 shut-offs. There's a shut-off for the, 2 separate shut-offs, one for the utility company and one for the project. And I don't know if the fire department will have the ability to shut stuff off. I'm sure Eversource works with all local fire departments to have that ability.
okay, I think that's all I have for now, it looks like a good project, and we want more solar, so, thank you.
Yeah.
Katie?
I don't have a lot, it's mostly been answered, but I have more curious questions. So, obviously, we need fire access, someone gets hurt on the property, something like that. Is there like a cause of loss throughout the industry? Like, they can't burn, right? But you do have chemicals.
Very little can burn, but things that the panels will not burn. They don't have chemicals in them that will burn, but some of like the inverters and transformers and the batteries do have the ability to combust.
They could burn, okay.
Usually what we see in solar facilities is fires or fires from natural causes, just sort of burn into the area. Typically, it's not the project facility starting the fire. So these inverters and all these strings have safety mechanisms in them, and it's monitored remotely through a SCADA system. So if there's a short, they'll shut the project down before a fault reaches a point where it starts melting equipment or creating a fire, source from the project.
Okay.
It's very rare.
It's gonna be maintained as a meadow, and you said there was agricultural fence. So what do you mean by agricultural fence?
So there is a detail on the first detail page, but
I missed that then.
the agricultural style fence is, it's occasionally used around like cow pastures, but it'll be, instead of being like a chain link fence that has very small openings, it'll be like a 6-inch by 6-inch
Okay.
mesh.
Yep.
And then the wires themselves are a little bit thinner. So it's not as obtruse to look at it,
Okay.
we think.
And then, as far as, and this probably goes to you, Phil, but you had discussions with Pat over the bond. So, my knowledge of a decommissioning plan financial surety was usually when there's chemicals.
Right.
So in this case, the way I interpret it was it's more towards the breakdown of the units, if you had to take them away. Are both in the computation? Is it a combination?
I'm actually gonna defer to Hamilton,
Okay.
because he came up with that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could refer that to scrap value over, decommissioning of the project. The scrap value of the panels and everything inside of it is gonna be more than decommissioning the actual project. So we use that, we use some studies from New York, correct?
So the Mass Department of Energy Resources bases a lot of their decommissioning calcs on ISERTA data. It's used broadly across all of New England. And so it's essentially involves sort of what it would cost to break the whole facility down, remove the equipment, truck it off the site, recycle it. And typically we add into the decommissioning plans, we develop a small adder, and then oftentimes with a bond, it's revisited at years 5, year 10, year 15, so it sort of keeps pace with what's needed to decommissioning the project in the event that for whatever reason it becomes non-functional. So really commonly across all of New England, we see these decommissioning plans developed in a similar fashion so that municipalities are protected, so that they aren't left with a facility sort of sitting there
Abandoned.
abandoned. Exactly.
Okay. That's all I have, thank you.
John?
Will there be any buildings or structures at all on them, other than the arrays themselves?
No, the electrical units will just be on vaults. Pretty similar to what you might see in like a subdivision.
So the items marked around the turnaround, what is it?
Yep, so that's like a concrete base that would be maybe a few inches off the ground, and then the actual units would sit right on top of it. And that, I know it's pretty hard to see on this view plan, and if you look at the SPCC plan, which I can definitely add to the plans on the next meeting, it's a little bit more zoomed in. There's the gravel ring that I mentioned earlier. That's what makes it look a little bit bigger on the plan, but that'll just be a concrete.
So it's basically, a rectangular box that's sitting within like a concrete nest, kind
It's
of.
a
It's a
pad-
concrete
pad-
slab.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and it's only, is it like 5 feet tall or something, you said?
The actual equipment on it might be about that height, but the pad itself would
Pad
probably
itself, yeah.
only be about 8 inches off the ground.
Okay. And that's open to the weather?
Yeah.
Okay. So when the people come, once a month, was it? Or
Yes, once a month.
they just come up and like stroll through and just look for anything out of the ordinary, or they just check readings and stuff like that?
Yeah, and so as Dale mentioned to you before, this project will be managed remotely. So they will have the ability to see what's going on in the project and can tell if there's a problem. So say a tree falls on a set of panels, they can see, oh, we're suddenly not seeing the same amount of production in this corner
Yeah.
that we see in the rest of the array. Let's go out there. And they'll go out and review if there's something wrong, if there's something down. And that would probably really be all that would be out there. And then also there's maintenance of any of the stormwater infrastructure as well as mowing. Basically, mowing is probably gonna be the biggest thing you'll see.
And occasionally, typically quarterly inspections, but if there's an issue, there are companies that are local, that sort of take on maintenance contracts, and so they dispatch a truck to go out to the site and check it, but
So-
traffic to these facilities is really infrequent.
Basically, when they're coming, there's no immediacy of their doing it that day. If something happened, they could come back another day, whatever.
If something happened that they were concerned about, they can shut off a whole section of this array.
What I was thinking was if it was mentioned like the tree comes down across the driveway.
Yeah.
Now, the way it's positioned, no one's gonna notice that until maybe 2 weeks down the line when someone comes again. And
I think at that
the
point,
fact that they can't get in that day isn't going to interfere with the, with these running.
no, I mean, something like that, they'd probably just hire somebody quickly to go out there with a chainsaw or something like that, but.
Okay. The strip, let's see, north is that way, to the northwest, on the borderline there, where you have the fence and you have, I think it's a 16-foot gap or something. Is that gonna be kept cleared so that vehicles could get through there if needed, or what's the plan? The distance between the gate and the boundary line, the fence and the boundary line.
I don't think we really have a plan for that. We'll need to probably mow just outside of the fence, just so the fence doesn't get stuck in with all sorts of vegetation and stuff like that. But there's also, that's probably not a manageable strip of anything that could really support vegetation. But I don't think we're really planning on cutting or not cutting in that area. I think it's just gonna be sort of left to be more meadow.
Yeah, I was just thinking, if it was to be used as a secondary emergency access for the fire department, obviously it would have to have been cleared for the fire truck to go through there.
Yeah, we are clearing it.
It is being cleared, that was my question, basically, okay.
But I don't think there's what I was trying to say is I don't think there's much woods along that line.
Okay, no, I wasn't thinking so much about taking down stuff, it's just making sure it was clear for a vehicle to get through if needed.
Free of woody vegetation. So if there is indeed an emergency, you're gonna just be dealing with meadow vegetation on a stable surface. So there isn't gonna be woody vegetation growing up around the fence or inside of anything in the fence line.
Yeah.
That would prohibit, potential for movement.
I think Phil mentioned it would be like one sign out at the road, is that correct?
No, the sign's gonna be on the gate of the fence.
Okay, so at the point of South Street, there'll be no notification as to what the driveway or anything is, okay, only inside.
Unless you guys would like us to. We don't have any intention.
Not sure if it's necessary. And I think I like the idea at least of some kind of motion activated light there, so that once they use it, they know what they've run into. Nothing else I can think of right now.
All right. Will you be able to see the gate from South Street?
Doubt it.
I doubt it.
Is it gonna be all wooded? Okay, where I'm going with this is,
Somebody pulls in, how do they get out?
yeah, I was in the area when I was a kid. So, just pointing out that,
We won't ask
you
for
know,
any details.
most will go in also boom. But I'm just saying so that they at least know something's there. The other thing is, I would ask you just to check with the police, because the other thing I'm thinking of was the ATVs. I don't know how much problem they have. I know PJ's got it all wide open, but I can see a kid like, ooh, and then, or even going in there and getting stuck. Let's put it, well, that's the other thing, is my suggestion, if you're not gonna put a gate, I don't care whether you do or not, but right before the gate, little turnaround, so if someone comes in, they can turn around and get out, so,
Yeah, and there's an old borrow there, we can probably tackle that.
yeah, just so somebody pulls in by mistake, or they wanna come out, maybe you leave a recycle bin there for them
So one
too.
thing we've done, and it likely given, no, because I've been on site a lot, and I've seen a lot of things.
I thought I bet.
They're probably reflectors, would be a bad idea, along the fence line, in the perimeter of the back of the site, just to make sure that actually.
Yeah, because you don't want someone stuck in there, that's all I'm saying. The other thing, you talked about fire, but grass does burn, but I don't know how often they have but they'll have to deal with that because, you can't sprinkle grass. The one thing I know you got a bunch of balls in the air. We got a bunch of these around town. We got LaRusso's up in production, we got the one at the old bird site. Next time you come in, just tell us what they've done, what's different, what would be better in any of the boards or any of the departments of the town, if something, because why are we gonna act on our book if what's not working out there? I mean, Production Road, I don't know if you guys been there, it's right near you, off of 1A. When you're there, it's right in front of you, so you don't have any access, you don't have any reasons for ATVs or kids to park there, but the bird site is kind of remote, so I'm just curious, and also how the fire department should know by now what they want. That's the other thing. So Paul Barry should be able to say, yeah, this is fine, or this isn't, because this is not, you're like the third one or
Right.
fourth one of
Third or
these.
fourth, I think.
Yeah, so let's use the experience that we have, and next time you come in and says, yeah, may not be perfect what we have, but this is the way it should happen, so.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody in the audience have questions, comments regarding the solar? If you do, come on up.
Josette Burke, South Street, RTM Precinct 4, and Finance Committee. This came before us about a year ago, approximately, to start this. I live on South Street. I think it's a good project to have. It's set back enough that you're not visibly going to see it, but I was concerned about the fence. I was glad that was brought up. The fire department, we had a serious accident on South Street on the trails with an ATV rather, a few weeks ago. So there should be something there for signage and such, and there should be a chain of some sort. The other projects, I've been on the FinCom for 12 years. The other projects, I was there when they came on it for the solar. They were all 20 years. Is this going to be a 20-year project?
It's a 20-year minimum is what we plan on. We finance these projects for up to 40 years. So I guess a maximum length of 40 years.
40 years?
Yeah. I mean,
But
that's,
they've really increased.
yeah, I mean, the life of the projects are anywhere from 30 to 35 years.
Because originally it was strictly 20.
Yeah, technology's changed a lot
Mhm.
since, 12 years. I don't know how long, when the first project in Walpole was presented, but it's definitely changed a lot.
Okay. The monitoring and such is something that you're almost like an absentee landlord
In a way.
in a way, because you're not on site, it's not visible to the public. So are you doing like closed circuit? How are you monitoring this to make sure there are no issues?
Yes, Dale mentioned it's monitored online, basically. No, yeah, but, and Dale can mention, it's monitored online, so.
Go
it's
to
like
the
a
mic so
database,
they can
you go
hear.
Yeah.
Check everything. For my knowledge, there's no cameras.
Yeah, and you know, as Greg mentioned earlier, the SCADA system is so sophisticated that it understands the local weather. So where the sun is, what the temperature is, what the wind is, what the precipitation is, and then it knows how much power each node on the project should be producing. And so if sort of in NASA headquarters, there's one of these facilities actually right next to my office where they have these big heads-up displays, and they can tell you what each one of their projects is supposed to be producing, whether or not it is producing that. So it's kind of like a green light, red light system. And so you could know, you know, in California, whether or not this project was functioning as it was supposed to. And if it's not, like I said, they hire local companies and they'll dispatch a truck out there. If it's not producing what it should, to look into the source of the issue. And those systems are so sensitive that even a single panel not functioning will trigger a notice, and there'll be somebody out there looking into it.
I see the display you have here. Is there any, through you, Mr. Chairman, is there going to be a potential of expansion over and above what you already have on this? And hypothetically, if that comes, do they have to come before you again to get a permit to expand what they have, what
Yeah.
they're looking for right now?
Yeah, they'll have to do that, and the other, you know, they're at 2% impervious right now. They don't want to exceed it because it'll be into the whole wetlands thing. So, yeah, they have to come back to us at every time they do anything.
Okay.
I think it's 2,500 square feet, which doesn't get them a lot of panels. That's, they'll be
Exactly.
under limited site plan. So I don't think they're gonna put 3 panels out for just that, so.
No, and the utility interconnection, you know, obviously, there's been an interaction there already, and so they're committed or kind of capped at the capacity that they'll be approved to inject by the utility. So it's bound by the property, you're bound by your interconnection, so, you know, expansion is not considered.
Could even get smaller.
And correct me if I'm wrong, none of this is being used by our town. This is all gonna be privately owned and sent elsewhere,
Sent to Eversource, but privately owned.
but privately owned. So there's no benefit other than the pilot program that at some point you will get to
Yeah.
in this process.
Sure, and sort of the broader benefit of moving, you know, power supply as mandated to a more renewable base for production in general. So it's going to utility and it's gonna get distributed to you locally.
And land restoration, I mean, it is an old gravel pit, not getting used.
But the town's not getting any benefit from it unless it's not as if that solar system is going to be producing solar for the benefit of our buildings, is what I'm getting at. And it's something that the
Not
town should
directly.
really be looking into. Not directly, that's right.
I understand.
Through the pilot program, yes, we'll get a benefit with X number of dollars for a 20-year period.
Right.
But,
I totally agree, but
Okay.
to your point, it's going to Eversource, wherever Eversource sends its power.
okay,
So I get my power from them, maybe I get it, maybe I don't, but
Okay. there's no real benefit to the residents of Walpole
it's not going
through
from this into your house or my house.
Correct.
And that's,
Just clarification on that.
until Walpole gets its own electric like Norwood.
Hold your breath. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Questions or comments from the public? Ms. Fuller? Okay. All right, first I know I'm gonna need a extension.
Sure.
Not sure what year. So, do we wanna pick a year first? Phil?
I don't think so. I don't need to break that much new ground tonight. When do you think? When do you think? 4 weeks. So, 2 months?
2 months?
I'd like to be here in 6 more weeks, and I'm sure that's, let's see, middle of December, so we do it to December 31st.
Okay, and by then you'll already, when do you think you have your, be careful, say it, Concom,
We'll be filed. I don't know if we'll be done.
okay. And then you said you won't have your Eversource letter until February anyway, but you can't
Right.
construct it, because,
In fact, Eversource says to wait. With COVID, a lot, like, we should have already had it by now. We're expecting it, they told us February, so.
so I would expect by next time, because you're jumping the gun on Concom, is all the questions we have, especially relative to fire.
Yep.
Will be all answered and all that, so the only thing we're dealing with is these
That's the goal.
wetlands, if you have to move them and that
Right.
stuff, okay? I'll make a motion to allow an extension up through December
31st.
31st, 2021.
Yep.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Do I have a second? Any further discussions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, okay. Now,
I have no idea what your December schedule looks like.
well,
December?
Yeah, that's,
I mean,
Christmas
you're
Eve?
probably only meeting once, right?
right, so
I
that's why I
can,
didn't
I can
really-
make it.
I'm not
can
cooking
too.
for all of you.
Well, in that case.
December 2nd.
you want to do December 2nd?
December 2nd at 7:15,
7:15.
7:10,
Yes.
whatever.
December 2nd, 7:15.
Okay.
Okay, this will, it concludes this, so we'll continue this December 2nd, 7:15.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
see you later. Alright.
Give me back his stuff that he's got, or did he?
Mr. Chairman?
It's a big one.
He's the,
Yeah, stuff for Kate.
oh, yeah, it's all in this one. He's the one from UF.
Thank you.
Called me before you get that out. What's the best one?
I like orange. I like lemon, but my kids ate them all. Would anyone like a piece of hard candy?
Good, thank you.
Kate? I'm sorry? No, thank you.
I think I need some sugar to make it.
Peach. Yuck.
Got a hair of mine.
A hair?
No, just like that.
Yes.
Pretty quick, right? Anything for me there?
I do.
Come on, I gotta get up. Get up in the morning. Remember? Let's go, gotta get up. Gotta be at school by 5.
Does it sit on the kitchen table, the sun shines on them?
Yeah.
Make the coffee.
Okay, with the hour being after, I think it was 7:30, we have a continued Lincoln Estates. That being said, the applicant,
Good evening, Mr. Chair, ladies and gentlemen of the board. Brian Almeida for the applicant, and with me is Rob Truax of GLM Engineering. We're here to address any outstanding concerns with respect to this project. And I'm glad to say I'm going to get up here tonight and probably not talk about gravel as much as I have the last couple of times I've been here, so it's refreshing at the very least.
Don't be so sure.
Excuse me?
Don't be so sure.
I guess I shouldn't assume, but I'm hopeful at the very least.
okay, why don't you show us the new plan? And show everybody.
Good evening. For the record, Rob Truax, GLM Engineering Consultants. So we submitted to you a revised set of plans. I'm not sure if everyone can see this. So what we did was we did as the board had suggested, and we've done the grading for the roadway, utilities, and what's needed to build the roads without grading for the house lots, the individual house lots themselves. As you can see, the area in light green is the area that would be cleared and graded, side slopes, et cetera, for the roadways and utilities, drainage facilities, tree planting, et cetera. We are preparing an area in the front, which is the staging area, which we'll use for stockpiling, as well as staging the equipment. There are some drainage swales in that area as well that have to be built for the drainage system, which goes across lots 1, 2, and 3. This plan has reduced the amount of gravel by 165,000 yards. So I believe now with the swell factor and your gravel removal that I sent in the revised one, I had, I think it was 400 plus or minus. We had 471,000 cubic yards, which we anticipated when you broke it down to the truck trips, et cetera. It was 40 trips per day, 18,860 trucks, which comes out to be about a 1.8-year period to go in, build the roads, remove the gravel at the same time. We also revised the plans to go through the town engineer Carl's comments. We've addressed most of them. We think the majority of the issues have been resolved. There's very few technical issues left at this point. We've had a couple meetings with Carl to go over his issues. I did receive a letter tonight with his, he submitted to the board, and I'll let him present that to you. There are things on there we'd like to discuss with the board. There are some recommendations for some off-site improvements and things like that that we're willing to discuss with the board. With that, I think the revisions, other than the, the gravel removal being the main one, I think the others are really just technical things that were revised as far as like drainage details, things like that on the plan. So I'll answer any questions the board might have, and go from there.
All right, I got some new responses from different boards. The Board of Health on October 6th dated, they had their meeting October 5th. You voted unanimously that the board appreciates there will be no construction within a 100-foot buffer. Board wishes to remind the applicant to adopt best practices in mosquito mitigation. In addition, the board wanted the applicant to be aware of, since there's 24 single-family homes, each will have a septic system, soil testing will need to be conducted. Once again, it's one of those, they voted unanimously, but doesn't tell me yes or no. You get that all the time, I mean. You
They
guys
voted
got-
unanimously to do what?
Well,
That
they appreciate
keeping
that
you out of the
you
boat.
stayed out of 100 foot, that's all. But you know, general laws, you have to have a yes or a no. So you're gonna have to go back to them, right?
We'll call.
Okay, I mean, we just had that previous fire department, from Paul Barry, Deputy Chief, and indicates this is dated the 24th of September. If Ava has not been applied for a street name, it should be applied for. Fire department requests the applicant provide documentation confirming proper turning radiuses, and consideration should be taken when choosing and locating street trees to limit overgrowth to the street. Okay. Next one is, that's the only one other than Kyle, so I'll let Kyle dig in.
Mr. Chair, Carl Balder, Town Engineer. We delivered a letter to you today. There are actually very few technical comments. This submission that's before you is from our previous review dated August 19th and from testimony that was board provided and people provided at that hearing. Anyway, we reviewed the plans, and we note boldly at first that this set of plans now, although very similar to the ones before, now shows only the 3-to-1 grading from the road, the grading for the detention basins, and grading on the first 3 lots on the right, I think of Ava, as a staging and mobilization area. So that has changed those plans, but the profiles, all the other details and things that we've gone through remain the same. The basins also remain the same. They are basically built to accommodate build-out. We note one, which is a note that's been all along, that the applicant must provide dates for the requested work. That's in your regulations, section 3-1. We also received a second update, a second supplement on the traffic report, where the traffic engineer analyzed the intersection of Plain Street and Lincoln Road, and he's given 2 recommendations to trim and remove vegetation at that location, southeast quadrant of the intersection, to improve sight distance. So that would be as if a car was coming down Plain Street toward the project and looking right on Lincoln Road. That intersection doesn't have very good sight distance now. They've also recommended installing an intersection advance warning sign on Lincoln Road. And there's some more detail to that in the letter, I note that. On the plans, we do note there's a Mr. Truax explained that, there's a 15-foot drain easement over lots 1, 2, and 3 that gets water from the rear of those lots to the detention basin. We want him to note that as private, and we do not want to see it conveyed to the town in the Form J conveyance. Ignore the note about sheet 5 and 6 and the monuments that I forgot to take off. That's been addressed. It's under sheet 5 layout. I note that the subdivision rules and regs allow the board to determine whether the abutting property is suitable for development, and if so, show a full-width roadway right-of-way through lot 7 and 8. Currently, the plans just show an easement through there that we requested an earlier review, a narrower easement for, essentially for utilities, perhaps future water main extension or whatever would happen. So we're asking the board to see if they want the full roadway shown on, the full roadway extension that would be of Ava Drive, extended to the Walpole Sportsman's property, if that's something you want or don't want. We don't particularly have any recommendation on it. However, we did say that if it was our recommendation that it be shown but not constructed, that they essentially show the grading that they originally showed. That is up for discussion. We've also recommended that roadway parcel, roadway section be noted as a parcel as well for future extension, if you so do that. Sheet 12 and 13, we want the, and this is very traditional for Walpole subdivision plans, we want there to be a mill and fill, in other words, a cold plane and pave on Lincoln Road at the entrance to the project. And we would like the location of the group mailbox and a detail shown wherever it's going to go. We don't have any recommendation for that. We do have details for the mailbox. Then I go into a section on off-site consideration, and I list 3 things. drainage on Lincoln Road near number 545 Lincoln Road, which would be to the west of the project entrance. There's been some riprap installed down there, and it could be improved. And this has been discussed with the developer, and I think they're agreeable to doing that. We also look for the sidewalks on Deerfield Drive to be replaced for the entire length, including incidentals, ramps, and other things that need to be done down there, loam and seed or whatever it is you have to do when you replace a sidewalk. And we've looked for improvements to Plain Street, which is not in very good shape. If we're going to be running a lot of trucks, or the applicant's going to be running a lot of trucks over there, we would like a mill and overlay on that road to be installed at their expense, so that the trucks can ride smoothly down that road. We've provided a modification to standard conditions if the board so chooses. And this stems on a discussion at the last meeting about the town, about responsibility to plow subdivisions before they're accepted. So we provided some wording in there saying that the developer will be responsible for it till acceptance. And that may help clear up what is now maybe a situation that's a little confusing. And then below that, I've got suggested special conditions. The board can take them as they are, modify them, or not adopt them. But I've provided four, and one of them is the first is to adopt the gravel removal operations plan, last revised September 20th, into your approval. A quick note, or a quick condition that says only the gravel removal required to achieve the grade shown on the approved plan is permitted under this approval. There's also a condition saying that the improvements which I previously described at Plain Street and Lincoln Road be achieved. And then another condition recommending language for that the private drain easement over lots 1, 2, and 3 be so noted and memorialized in the deeds for lot 1, 2, and 3. And I've given some framework for that to occur, and then I've noted that you may require other special conditions as this goes along. That's it.
All right, John?
First thing that comes to mind is Carl's mention about a group mailbox. I didn't notice one on the page.
We haven't shown one yet. I didn't realize it was required at this point.
It's not our requirement.
Yeah, I know, that's what Carl was
This
explaining to me.
these are not private roads, though, are they?
No, but it appears the post office is no longer doing individual mailbox for new subdivisions. They're requiring a
Really?
group
Okay.
mailbox. That's,
Yeah, they have one up, if you go up to Olmsted, they have them there too.
apparently that's what's the new standard, I guess, right? I've never,
Delivering your mail.
they don't wanna go to everyone's house anymore. You're out.
Lazy, yeah. Saving bucks.
Yeah, we can come up, that's a simple.
That isn't ours, it's gonna be where the post office says they want, so we can't
Yeah.
tell you one way or another.
I thought we had intended to request that the road off of the cul-de-sac be extended to the gun club line. And I didn't see that change.
Yeah, that's not on there.
That's not on here. It's just a 20-foot easement at this time, access and utility.
I see you've got new slopes. Grading. As someone who comes down Plain Street every week and tries to take a left onto Lincoln Road, that is a corner that definitely could appreciate some help, yeah.
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, if you
I'm not
want,
sure whose land it is.
we want to have some discussion about Carl's comments, and it might clear up some questions of the board members, if you're willing to do that. So especially the off-site improvements.
All right.
So, I'm sorry, John, I didn't mean to interrupt, but you're asking questions of things I'm gonna just offer you, so. So as far as the off-site improvement goes, the drainage on Lincoln Road near, it's McManus's driveway. So the water comes down Lincoln Road, goes into a stone area, and then goes down, and eventually, once it gets in around her driveway, it overflows her driveway. So we've talked to the town engineer. We're willing to work with the town engineer and the McManus neighbors to put in a drain system, either a pipe under a driveway, whatever it takes, and that can be a condition of approval, and that's an off-site improvement the applicant's willing to do. The sidewalk on Deerfield Drive, that can be a condition of approval. The applicant's agreeable to putting in a new sidewalk on Deerfield Drive. The Plain Street and milling and overlay, we've had discussions with Carl on the cost of that. We got a quick estimate. We thought it was around $60,000. Carl made a comment that he thought it'd be more in the area of $67,000 to do that work. So the applicant would be amenable and agreeable to an off-site improvement for Plain Street to provide a donation for that road to be repaved in the amount of $67,000.
I don't like those.
You don't like those?
No, because they just, like, they did sidewalks many years ago when it just goes into the general fund.
No, it's not a sidewalk. We're gonna, it's
No, no, what I'm
paving the
saying,
road.
Rob, on Plimpton Street, when they did Wisteria 2, they gave money for the sidewalks.
Oh, but this is for Plain Street to be
No,
repaved.
but my point is, sidewalks never got done.
May never happen.
They took the money and ran. It goes into that big kitty and
How
goes.
does that work, Carl?
That's a town's problem, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely familiar, but I believe if they donate it, it can be dedicated specifically for that purpose, and if they do, we will do the work.
No.
Well, we don't have to give it.
If
It's
not,
been it.
we could do the work.
So we could do the work. You could
My
make that
point is,
condition
when
as
this,
well.
no, it's not you guys, it's just that sidewalks many years ago, if you don't remember, it's more of your brother, and they're gonna fix it Plimpton Street, and you guys gave, I don't know, 20 grand. Sidewalks are still the same they were 20 years ago. We got a few new trucks, and a few new mowers, and a new DPW garage, but we didn't get them sidewalks.
Ball fields too.
Tree truck.
Don't go there. So,
But we just wanna put that out there, that these
Yeah.
three conditions that, you know, we've talked about it, we're willing, and the applicant's amenable to those.
okay, just so you understand, everybody on the board and everybody out there, that we can't, off-site, we don't control unless you give us a letter to the effect that you want this part of the decision.
We can do that.
That's the only way we can.
Yep, we can provide that in writing to you. And then the other thing, the other conditions that are like the easements and things like that, but as far as the connection to the gun club, to the Walpole Sportsman property, we're more than amenable to provide that. I did do a plan that I'm just gonna show you what it would look like, and maybe you can give us some guidance on how you'd like to see it developed. This shows if we were to build it, so we would push the right-of-way right up to the property line, and we'd push the pavement right out, and we'd bring the water and sewer as well to the end, then we would build it right out. So we would be amenable to that as well, building it right up.
You said something, you said sewer.
Well, you're gonna have, there's utilities, oh, sorry, there's no sewer.
I was a great, you got a long way to go. Yeah.
But the utilities in the
It's
road.
funny, but it's not your money. We'll put
I'm
it
so
in
used to
there.
having projects with sewer, it's been a while, but the utilities would be extended to the end of the right-of-way as well, if this was the direction the board wanted to go. Otherwise, we would just create that right-of-way and then just cut the pavement here and just not build this piece. And it would still be part of the right-of-way. The board, when you accept the roads, you would accept that with it. Rather than, I don't like the idea of creating it as a parcel, because then he's gonna still own it, and then who has the rights to use it? Could become a little, we've discussed it amongst ourselves about creating it as a separate parcel, and that could just, we think it should either be a right-of-way or an easement or built, whichever the board's pleasure.
At the minimum would be it would be part of the town.
Yeah, you could accept it as part of the
Accept it
town,
as-
take
yeah.
it when you take
Or
the
you
road.
could-
Convey it to us if
Yeah.
they did not construct it.
Yeah, not the whole full build-out, yep.
So we would just make it right away like that and just build it to here, is what you're saying.
Oh, I didn't want, John, I didn't mean to cut in on you, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea, yeah. Yeah, if it doesn't get needed, you leave it as it is until such a time as they say, oh, sure, we know on a road.
If someone pushes it through someday, they push it through.
Yeah, if not,
The town will have, it'll be public road, basically, just not built, and if someone wants to do the improvements to it, they could.
and from your, communication with the gun club, they're still happy with the windy driveway they have?
I'll let Brian discuss that.
I think that you're probably gonna hear from the club, so I certainly don't wanna put words in their mouth, but from our perspective, we've been negotiating them with them for 20 months now, and we've made it clear to them that we're willing to deed them what was referred to in the prior plan as Parcel A. It still isn't resolved 20 months later, so this is sort of our alternative in the event that we're unable to come to an agreement with the club, and it seems that that's going to be the case. So while I think the club has, at least at the last meeting, suggested that this wasn't ideal for them, it's sort of the option that we have.
Has the fire department made any comments about the narrowness of that driveway? I suppose its existence, I don't know if they're looking for a better access back to the gun club.
We're not responsible for access to the gun club as far as fire protection, things like that, that's
Yeah.
not our problem, we're just dealing
I'm
with
just
our
curious if you
subdivision.
had any
So
comments.
we're not looking or approaching the fire department with comments on the Walpole
Okay.
Gun Club. We're just working on what's required for our subdivision.
So, from my understanding, the road layout hasn't really changed, the elevations haven't, it's just the slopes have now risen or altered on the lots themselves.
So the individual lots will need to be graded to build the houses, but that is not going to be part of this board's permitting.
Right.
My understanding will be this board would, if approving the project, it would approve the grading as shown on this plan, and the
Right.
gravel will be on the road only, correct?
Well, yes, but the one thing I think you'd be calling those slope easements, to that effect, right?
Say that again?
You'd be calling, everything you've cut into would be, they would be known as your slope easements, correct?
It could be, I mean, not necessary as long as you're still owned by the applicant.
No, I understand, but if it goes to a private individual, what do you do for the,
Well, the road wouldn't sell the lots until the road's built, because you can't deed them out, until the slopes already be there.
I understand, that's just, the discussion I'll throw out right now is, you grade it the way you show, that's wonderful. What if the homeowner doesn't do it?
What do you mean?
He comes in and starts filling, he screws up the grades, well, I'm saying. You got nice grades like this, and if I buy the lot, I'm saying, wait, I don't like this. Do you know what I mean? He either wants to fill it or something. You've graded this off that you can build the road, I understand. How are you guys gonna be ensure later on that whoever takes the individual lot doesn't do
You
something?
can't build on that slope a house.
What?
You can't build a house on that slope and put a septic system in. You can't. It's impossible.
Well, that's
So
what I'm
what
saying.
is the plan?
Well, we showed you a plan of how it would be developed when it's all built out, but.
So are you
that's
planning
not-
to go to the
but
ZBA?
unfortunately, as we've been told, that's not the purview of this board. So the purview of this board is what's required to build the road, and that's what we're showing you now.
Okay.
So-
Well, I'll have to think about is,
I mean, we could. you don't-
no, I'm just worried about individual lots, that's all.
Well, that happens all over town. After you sell the lot, any lot could be altered.
I understand, but could they alter it in the fact that it's gonna do harm to the road?
I don't know. We don't put easements on subdivisions for the side, for the work off the roadway.
I understand, but you
The
said,
only reason we would do grading easements on the lots is if we were selling the lots prior to the road being built and we couldn't grade the lot. We couldn't do this grading when we built it because we sold the lot. So we would take an easement to do that grading.
that's why I'm saying is, you might,
I mean, those would be temporary slope
Yeah,
easements.
well, that's what-
Once the slope's built, done.
that's what I was saying, we need those on the plan, right? Temporary, you don't
As
call,
long as we own the property, we don't.
I know, but you always have temporary slope easements.
No.
No?
No.
I've seen them on most plans. All right, I'm not gonna beat this one to death.
I mean, that's the risk he would run if he could sold the lot, he couldn't build it.
Oh, I understand. All right,
I have nothing else, I
John,
guess.
okay, Kate?
So I apologize, but I still have an issue with the gravel removal.
Oh, jeez. Made it
So
this
my
far.
issue isn't with the gravel removal, I guess. It's with taking it out, in that I just did the rough math, and when I do it, it comes down to, it's 80 passes with the big trucks. And whether you put in a lunch break or not a lunch break, that's like 10 to 11 trucks an hour. That's like a truck every 5 to 6 minutes. These roads are not, it's not like 27, you know? And I worry about the neighbors and that many passes. And I mean, that's gotta be wearing, listening to that all day long. And I also worry about the wear and tear on the roads. So I understand you're willing to, I think it's great, you're willing to look at Plain Street, but I think we're gonna have a bigger issue than Plain Street. So I'm struggling with that one. I don't know how you can make me feel better on that one. I just can't imagine, you know, if you're home all day, having that many trucks pass by, full, rattling, you know what I mean? It's a quiet country road.
I've driven on it, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a concern. I mean, it's, you know, I think the applicant's doing their best to try to mitigate that impact as much as possible, just with, in terms of, you know, trying to keep it as reasonable as possible, and also sort of giving you this plan where the gravel is substantially reduced, and it's still just what's necessary for the roads and the.
Yeah, and the gravel is reduced, but if you looked at the first gravel removal operation plan and the second one, the number of trips didn't really change. What you did is you cut 6 months off instead. So I don't know if we could look at that to help reduce it. I don't know if that's, you know, I'm not a neighbor, I don't live there, so I don't know if they'd rather just get it over with and have it all done in a year and a half.
You're saying perhaps have it over less truckloads per day over a longer
Well,
period of time?
in the first one, you had it lasting 2 years, and then the second one, you had it lasting a year and a half, I believe.
1.8, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we have to hear from the neighbors on that one, because I don't know, I can't speak. I look at it myself, and I grew up on a busy street, I live on a busy street, so, I mean, I'm used to traffic. But that many trucks is more than just traffic. So I think, you know, we should talk about that, and, you know, is it better to drag it out? Is it better to get it done quicker and just deal with it? I don't know, and I think that's something we have to look at.
I will say, when we did Wisteria Ways, it had north of 400,000 yards, and we did 40 trucks a day. And really, the person loading the trucks could sit around and read a book, and it was pretty quiet. And we never had a complaint. I don't know if anybody.
How did you truck it out of there? Which route?
Trailer trucks. we
No,
went
which
up
route did you take?
East Street. And from East Street, it went
But,
either way on 27.
John, that went over many years.
Right.
But it was still.
Many,
40.
many years.
Well, initially, no.
Russ will be down there digging, but you didn't just hog it all out, because you were slowly working your way around.
Well, initially, we were taking 40 trucks for about a year and a half. We were taking 40 trucks a day, and then it did slow down. We started with some more work in.
So you did 40 a day?
Spread out, but 40 was really quiet. It really was. You say, oh, I agree with you, it's, you know, back and forth, but the fellow loading the trucks was sitting there reading a book, and the trucks, you know, there was space for them.
And we do, I mean, you have to take into account Easton 27's a little different than Lincoln.
It is a
Yeah.
little different, but you're right, you could cut down the, you know, you could go 35 or 30, but it just.
And I don't know the answer to that. I'm not gonna pretend I do, but I think we do have to talk about it and look at it.
Maybe we could start with the 40 and then revisit it if we had a lot of issues.
And I think it's certainly the kind of thing that we'd listen to the input from the neighbors. But I don't want to jinx it, but at least thus far, there haven't been any comments in that regard from the neighbors. But I think Mr. Walsh is certainly willing to take that into consideration as much as possible, but it's a concern for sure.
That's really my biggest issue.
Yeah. Another suggestion we could put up there is, You know, one of the biggest noises of the truck is when they slow down, they put the Jake brake on. And
Yeah.
So we could put signage up at the entrance. It's gonna be when they're coming into the site that you're gonna get that coming back. So we could
The no
put-
Jake brake signs, yeah.
And then he'll tell the drivers as well not to use
I mean,
them.
we've tried a lot.
I mean, they know the drivers. You're gonna have the same people every day driving the trucks in there, so it's not like you're gonna have different drivers every day. So they can monitor that and we can put a sign up that says that, it'll help.
Like if it's a LaRusso, he'll have the same drivers, and it's in his interest not to have problems. It's in everybody's interest not to have problems.
I just remember, so I grew up on Common Street, and when they changed the truck route, and all the trucks started going straight up Common Street, and
Yeah.
what a difference it was, and like I said, Common Street's much different than, you know, Lincoln Road. So I just, it's definitely a concern. I think we have to look at that and discuss that and be aware of it for the neighbors, because I do think it could be misery. Do you know what I mean? I know the guys are probably great, and they probably
Yeah.
take care,
Yeah.
but, it's definitely a concern.
I had no idea what a Jake brake was until right now, so I learned something.
Even I
tonight.
knew that.
I learned that tonight.
Well, you see the signs in other
Yes.
places, like in residential neighborhoods on the hill, you see them.
All set.
You all said, I did the math, you said 1.8 years, correct? 1.8 times 52 is 93.6 weeks, times 5 is 468 days. We divide 575 by 468, you're taking out over 1,200 yards a day.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, we used to
That's
figure
61
the
truck
math
trips
is
a day.
right there, I mean, it's 470, 25 yards a truck.
No, come on. You got the fluff factor, Rob.
Well, that-
It's a 20% fluff factor on each truck.
They use 15% in the
I use
calculation.
that's fine.
15% fluff factor.
Okay, but you're not gonna get 25 yards on those, but anyway. It's not gonna be done, it's gonna be a lot more than what you say, but you're just trying to fit it in within the 2 years. I'm just doing the math. Okay, if I call tomorrow and ask them, I'm selling gravel, and what do I get on a 20-wheel, and Tony tell me I'm buying 20 yards, and then I'm getting it delivered, and it's 30, right?
Right.
So,
If you're buying, it's 28.
yes, yeah, it's all a matter of which side of you're on, so you're all set, Kate? I
Yeah.
mean, Phil?
Yeah, I share Kate's concerns over the number of trips and also the amount of material being taken off the site. So I had a couple specific questions. So one is, so you're doing the math for the 25 cubic yards? So is it possible every truck is gonna be that large? Because I know the beta study used 16.5 cubic yards.
Well, you
Yeah,
should
most
talk
likely
about
they'll be,
Yeah.
trailer trucks are the most efficient, so if it's a Luso or a Tresca, they would send trailer trucks.
So those are the big
There
ones.
may be an occasional local buyer who would send a triaxle, which would be 18 to 20 yards, or a small truck would be
Then again, I wasn't
15
there.
yards, but
Times
it
2.
won't be many.
Yeah,
You
so
gotta-
I didn't
you gotta
think of
have
that.
a larger truck, so
The
we
last
know.
meeting when Phil said that, because they come
Yeah,
in.
because it is a truck every 5 or 6 minutes, like Kate said, well, counting round trips, so. So again, just the concern, making sure it's practical over the streets we're talking about, that can handle that volume of trucks, and it doesn't really cause, great problems for neighbors and, living on the street. So, I think it's good you're agreeing to the special conditions, those were concerned, so that is very, very helpful to do that. And then, do you know what percentage of trucks will be going to Millis as opposed to which ones will be going to
I don't,
Russa? So
that's as market demands. When we did Wisteria, and I do work, my concrete comes from Tresca, and John Tresca has expressed a lot of interest. We didn't sell any, I don't think we sold any to Louisiana. It was all Tresca and a few other guys at the time. The big dig was going on, and one Continental took some. They actually did the Millennium Park on West Roxbury, and they're using it for roadways to fill in dump. But,
Because that makes a difference on how long it takes to yeah, for the return
Yeah,
trip.
well,
That's a-
it doesn't really if you limit the number of trucks.
Right. And I think we're, good on the, extending the cul-de-sac and then do you have plans to submit a special permit to actually take out more of the gravel? That was the other option, right? If we didn't do the,
We don't have any plans right now.
so you would just wait till the lots are being sold and then,
We will get any permits we need to get.
but not take out more gravel until the lots are sold then, or?
If we need more permits to take out more gravel, we will get it.
But for now, just limited to that which is necessary for
Right.
the roads and what's shown on the plan.
Okay, I think that's all I have, and we've been through this many times, so, again, concern over the amount of, I think it's still unfortunate we can't do the development without taking out as much gravel to begin with. It just seems like such a,
It's a very high hill.
such an extreme amount of gravel to be taken out for a small project, but, so,
Okay. So who are, and to just go off of what Phil's last question, are you looking for the building commissioner to let you know if you need additional permits, or who are you?
I would talk to the building commissioner. And we've done our own research and we'll do whatever needs to be done to obtain permits.
Okay. Okay, the first plan that you showed, where you kind of identified the area that you're taking out the gravel, is that part of the latest set that you gave us? I mean, maybe not the color copy, but,
No,
or
I don't
like,
have that particular sheet, this sheet here.
mm-hmm,
No, I don't have that in your set.
okay,
I prepared that just for presentation, so you can see the whole site. If you want it, I can give it to you. I can put it in there, so it's just, I just did that for presentation purposes.
Uh-huh.
Prepared that. I mean, you have it broken into 3 sheets. You got this one, you have 3 grading sheets. So
Yeah.
You have a sheet, you have this sheet.
Right.
One of them.
yeah. So
That's the way
it
you
roughly
see it.
follows that,
Oh, it absolutely follows.
Yeah,
that.
okay.
The exact same grading.
yeah, okay,
I just put it all, just shrunk it down to a smaller scale so I could get it on one sheet.
okay,
You
okay.
require 40 scale for the drawing.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Would you like that in the plan set? Just as a overall?
It's helpful, it's
I mean, I
helpful
can
to
put it
see.
in at the end as just an overall sheet so you can see it short.
Sure, yeah, it's helpful. Yeah, like everyone here, I'm concerned about the amount of gravel. So the first time you proposed it, I calculated how much it was in terms of Olympic-sized swimming pools, filled Olympic-sized swimming pools. So originally, it was 174 Olympic-sized swimming pools of material you're taking out, and now it's moved down to 143.
Those are big pools.
So,
Do that. Yeah. That's interesting.
not an appreciable difference, I mean, I guess some, but it's still,
29% difference.
yeah,
Is what the reduction was.
yeah.
It's about
So we're-
20% by my rough math.
What'd you have?
About 20%, and about 18.5 or so percent. It's
Yeah,
My spreadsheet
Something.
says 29%, unless I did a calculation in Excel.
Phil.
well, actually, excuse me, I was just going off the swimming pool
Oh.
example.
Yeah.
I literally just 143 and divided by
there was some decimals that
So,
I,
fair
that
enough.
I,
Taking your raw numbers
Approximated.
of the, 661,250 with the 15% swill to 471,500 with the revised plan, that's a 29% reduction.
You rounded up, I had 28.
I like it better that way than in swimming pools, no offense.
yeah. So from my perspective, if I know that there's no official plan to go to the ZBA for a special permit, then I just, reiterate my initial concerns about making sure that we have a good plan in place and that, the town is protected against damage and all the rest. So, you did submit a new gravel removal plan, is that correct?
We updated it, yes.
You updated it, okay. So I just want to, I was kind of waiting to hear if you're going to the ZBA or not.
Well, I think the difference is just now we're conceding that we're only removing for the roads and
Right.
site work rather than for the lots as well, which is what we were first, asserting. And that's when the ZBA discussion came in, but now we're
Right.
just
So in my
within-
mind, if the ZBA is not going to be issuing a special permit for sure, then we have additional responsibility. So that's why I just
Well,
wanted.
I think it's, if we are going to remove more than what we're allowed to under section 6(1)(c), then we absolutely need to get permits if that's the case.
Even if you're not, just because of the amount, it just, it's something that we need to carefully consider.
But this amount now that we're showing is in your jurisdiction.
Correct,
not
yeah,
ZBA.
right. So that's what we just want to make sure is done correctly.
Absolutely.
Okay. So just regarding the road, if it extends, or parcel A. So parcel A is part of this project, that you own this.
That long strip.
Yeah, that's part of it. And so if we approve a plan that says we're going to extend Ava Lane, then you're going to take back parcel A and take away their access, or?
No.
No.
So parcel A will remain on the plan.
Mhm.
It's labeled as not to be considered a buildable lot.
Okay,
We're going to extend the right of way as the board's directed. And I believe from the direction I've heard, we're not gonna show it being built as a paved road, but we're gonna extend that right of way all the way to the property line. So that the time when you do accept roadways, that all that right of way will go with it. So there'll be a right of way up to the property line.
okay,
We're not gonna build it all the way, we're just gonna build it up to the cul-de-sac.
okay.
The actual construction of the road and utilities.
And if we went that direction, who is going to pay for that road to be constructed eventually?
It would be no different than us coming in and building the end of Deerfield. We have about 30, 40 feet we have to build to get to Deerfield,
Mhm.
within the town's right of way.
Mm-hmm,
Same type of thing. If someone wanted to extend the road, they would be the one who would build it. If
I
the
see.
town wanted to extend it, the town would build it.
mm-hmm,
If someone wanted to develop that land 20 years from now, 5 years from now, whatever it may be,
mm-hmm,
they could connect into this road and build it through.
okay.
Mr. Chair, I'll just say this, and I didn't have time to discuss this extensively with Mr. Truax and Walsh. Although it was done with Deerfield, I looked, they did accept the road all the way to the end, even the unconstructed part. It would be unusual, if not more than unusual, for us to accept an unconstructed road. So my view is that we would accept up to the point that the road is constructed in the original cul-de-sac. That doesn't mean there can't be provisions made for the rest of the road to go to the town or whatever, or leave it there. I just don't think we would accept an unconstructed road.
So you think, Carl, it would remain just an easement for future?
Well, that's subject to discussion. I recommended in my memo that it be a parcel, all right, and that parcel could be conveyed to the town. But I warn you that if it isn't constructed, even if the right-of-way is shown, and the grades remain as proposed, you're gonna need easements to be able to construct it, just like you see those roads flaring out, on that presentation, all right? It would also have to flare out to be able to construct that road, so there would have to be easements outside of the 46-foot right-of-way.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, just a request to show more of the lot lines, the surrounding lot lines, especially near that parcel A. It's kind of noted the adjacent owners, but it's not really clear where those lot lines are.
None. This is all one ownership.
And above? And where does it switch?
This corner.
Where is that line on the plan?
It's just, this is going to be right here on the corner, it's probably on one of the sheets.
Okay,
But there's no, this whole piece is all one ownership, and then all this is ownership.
okay,
You know, it's not like these down here, we got all the lot lines.
okay. I wasn't able to identify
This is
exactly
all-
where that switches, so,
This whole piece all the way up this side is the Home for Little Wanderers property.
I'm hearing you, but I would like to see it on the plan.
Are you just asking for the dividing line between where
Yes.
WSC ends and Home for Little Wanderers begins, like right about here?
If it's just one line, I'd like to see where it is, especially in relation to that parcel A. And as far as the discussions with the gun club, your update is that you've tried to talk with them and you have not reached an agreement?
Essentially, even before my involvement, it's been 20 months of offering them parcel A and other consideration and it not being accepted. So that's why we have the option that sort of came up at the last meeting to just extend the right of way that way.
Okay,
As an alternative, but
okay. And do we have resolution of the 500 feet ruling? Town council has said that it's okay, basically, right?
That's what they said.
We have no issues with those lots?
Nothing we can do about it.
Nothing we can do, okay. Okay, that's all I have, thank you.
All right, my turn, and rather than getting a debate, well, first off, we've never resolved, you said there's no easement, and we have an easement, so rather than beat this to death, all right, it's coming down to you guys and the gun club. If you guys agree, I'm happier, not happy, but happier. So whoever's representing, and I think Mr. Mackey's representing, I wanna hear from them on the resolve to this, 'cause that's what it comes down to.
I mean, I'm happy to leave the negotiations private or, you know.
Well, okay, I'm gonna put it in the public. I have an easement right now from them. You give me, says it doesn't exist. I get a piece of paper. I can't approve a plan with an easement on it that you guys just say isn't there, because right now, based upon the way it's written, I call it the floating easement. You can put it anywhere on that property, and they could just, after you build everything, it says, we're going right up through here, and we can't allow that. Plus, as you know, all easements, whether it's for utilities or whatever access, have to be shown, and there's nothing shown on this plan. Do you agree?
I agree.
So,
I agree there's nothing shown.
okay, so with that being said, I know Mr. Mackey's here, and let him speak to this, what, from his end. I assume Phil's here for that. Okay.
Not really sure where to start on this one. Why you just didn't call me and tell me this on Tuesday might have made your lives a lot easier. Sorry about that, Mr. Chairman. A little frustrated. So as far as 20 months, I couldn't tell you one way or another. I got involved last summer, and I apologize to the board and to Mr. Walsh if my hospitalization inconvenienced him in any way. But I was indisposed, and I'm going to leave it at that because we're on TV. So having said that, what they proposed tonight actually sounds very similar to what I asked for on Tuesday, and was told that they're closing tonight no matter what, and if I couldn't come to an agreement, there was really no point in talking. Through you, Mr. Chairman, if you don't close tonight, let's set up a time next week, bring the plan, we can be done in 30 minutes. If we want to fight about it tonight, I'm happy to do that too. But we don't oppose the development. We don't actually want the road extended from the cul-de-sac to the property line. We do want there to be one, because as I've discussed before, if the fire department, anybody else decides that we need a real road, we want to be able to put one in. But we don't want them to build it. We don't want it built. We'd prefer it not to. We'd prefer to go out the same driveway that they've been using since my dad joined back in the 50s. And I'm willing to put that in a written agreement. But again, I didn't hear about the potential of just having it become a accepted something. Certainly work with Carl to figure out what that something is. And we may be there, but right now, we're not. And we do believe there's an easement, and again, if we can come to an agreement, that becomes, to your point, moot, because we would give up whatever rights we may or may not have. I'm not asking you to say we have any, not yet. And then that issue would go away, and I think, contrary to what was said earlier, I don't see any reason we can't come to an agreement based on what was presented to you tonight. If you close the hearing this evening, then clearly I've got to have this discussion somewhere else.
Okay. My only comment is regarding the parcel. I don't care one way or another. I would just like to see at least the 20, this is gonna come back to the fire chief, or Paul Barry, deputy chief. They gotta get in there. It doesn't have to be paved, at least give the 46 feet for the future, and as long as they can cut in and they're happy to get in there. Or is that doable?
I think we'll sit with Mr. Mackey and
Yeah,
come up
but-
with a doable plan.
I understand with him. I'm coming from
No, I
me.
hear you. No, we'll come up with
You know,
a
I don't
doable-
need a ladder truck that can't go up a hill.
Correct.
This is
No,
the whole
we'll come up
purpose
with
of it, Rob.
something
It's,
doable for all.
yeah, for the fire department, okay?
You, Mr. Mackey, Rob, everyone's happy to sit with him and review the plan and come
Okay.
up with a solution that works for
Now,
everyone.
Phil alluded to something that I've been hearing the scuttlebutt around. You guys want to close tonight, right?
We want to close everything. We
Okay.
don't anticipate closing tonight by your tone.
Oh, no, if you want to close, Rob, no problem. And then you go off to conservation and it changes 1 inch, start again. Because you don't have your final conservation stuff, do you?
We're gonna probably withdraw the conservation stuff.
Let me withdraw.
We don't have any work in the buffer.
Well, they haven't pulled you out yet, so they got a plan. So my point is,
Right.
you could have some issues, okay? But, no, I wasn't planning on closing.
We're willing to work with you.
Okay.
We're always looking to close a hearing, you know that.
No, he is, you're not. And you're not either. As you close, you're home, not, there's no jing-jing going. Now, is what Mr. Mackey proposed, is that amenable, John? You guys sound like you're there. Is that true?
20 months ago, I said, I'll give you the driveway. They have to say, would like it.
But you also have to have an agreement that would come in here that says everybody and sit, and the easement signed off.
They have to say,
Okay.
we'll like it, we'll take it.
All right.
I'm trying.
Town parcel, and it's just gonna be 20-foot, or whatever Paul Barry
I
says.
mean, the driveway, common driveway.
Their driveway is gonna stay.
Right.
You already given that to them. This is just access for the town that's not gonna be used by the gun club or anybody. It's just in
Right.
case you need
Right.
something to that effect.
Yeah.
And as I said before, if you wanna put a gate up there with a lock like everywhere else, that's fine. But that's what you'll straighten out with the fire chief, or deputy fire chief, right?
I guess, so you want access through the berm? See, I don't think.
This isn't
anybody-
for future development in my mind, John. This is,
This is for this.
But
If it-
nobody's asking for
Nobody's
that.
asking for it.
who's nobody asking?
Who's asking for a road to go through, a fire road?
I am doing it as a member of the planning board for safety reasons. That's all.
So you want us to build it up to the property, I think Mr.
I don't even say the
Mackey is
road. I just want the.
A fire access road.
Correct, that's all I'm asking for.
I don't think the club wants that, from what I just heard.
What the club wants, how this is on this side, this is for the fire access. I don't know if they know that, but if the chief comes down and says, I can't go down that road anymore, and your club ain't gonna open, now where are they? It makes sense from a public safety viewpoint to always have two accesses into something, correct?
Not bad to have it.
I'll make my own call to the deputy chief and say, Paul, what do you think? Because this is what.
They don't want to ask because it's not their problem, they say.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
but yeah.
I think the whole point from both of our perspectives, is we've gone to a lot of trouble to build a site berm, you know, a sound berm, and to blow a hole in it, and it would come right up the cul-de-sac, and I think we're looking right at the back of the new club and at the ski fields, and it really defeats the purpose of the whole design of the berm. If you put a gaping hole in the berm,
Okay, well, that will be my homework to do, because I don't need someone to say they can't get up here. Remember, you're also cutting down, you've taken out the fork in the road. That was probably about a third of it, then when you're coming up there, at least you can jockey a third. You cut that out, it's one way all day long. As a matter of fact, that last few feet is worse than the rest of it, as you know, so. I'll talk to the deputy chief, but you guys are gonna get together,
yep.
okay?
Sounds good.
Mr. Chair, I have just one question before you go to the people. When you talked about the improvements on Plain Street, Plain
Yeah.
Road, is it the entire length of that to
Entire
West Street?
Yep.
From
Yeah,
Lincoln
so
to West?
Yeah, if you're familiar with that street, they put the new water line down there this year,
Uh-huh.
and they patched it. And there was no funding left to fix it after
Okay.
that. So
Okay. So the entire,
We got
Okay.
We got a new grass field.
all right, okay, thank you.
Okay, now, any members of the public wish to speak, and if you do, come on up and your name and address for the record, and whatever your question is, and whoever can answer it.
I'm happy to speak. I'm Edie Dahlia. I live on Lincoln Road, 300 Lincoln Road, and I have a lot of concerns about this, primarily around pedestrian safety. Lincoln Road, for starters, we know the subdivision is a rural zone area, so we've got agriculture, animals, horses, chickens, et cetera, in the area. It's also a scenic road that is narrow. It does not have any sidewalks at all. We all walk around that area, and traffic already has been increasing over the years. If you're actually seriously talking about that number of trucks up and down that road, you're gonna have someone get seriously injured. We walk our dogs, our children. That is not gonna be acceptable for those of us that live there, particularly for like a 2-year period, 3-year period, it doesn't matter. Sorry, I'm a little nervous. I also took a look at the rules and regulations briefly. I did a little dry read, no offense. But there are some things that are on there that are well within the board's purview to require and to have them look into. I'm questioning whether or not, as a scenic road, that the primary road even meets the required width of 46 feet to be able to put up a subdivision. It also says on page 42, section V8, that sidewalks shall be constructed within 1 1/4 mile of a playground, school park, etc. There's a ballpark, we all talked about that a second ago, on West Street. So that would require sidewalks being installed on Plain Road as well as Lincoln Road. Then you come into the fact that we have the scenic road, which is Lincoln Road, and how that impact. One can be done, and then 2, the scenic road, we want sidewalks there. And that would be a requirement within the board's purview as well. I'd also be curious if there's any traffic study on the impact of pedestrian safety. I would expect to see that because of that one concern, major concern. The other question that I would have, and this is within the board's purview, is I'm a little concerned or confused why you guys aren't taking into account the grading of all the lots at once. That's also supposed to be part of the subdivision rules. It looks like it's in section page 34-5, that all lots, grading, et cetera, need to be considered together, so not just the roads and then the drainage basins. It should be all at once, so that would mean more gravel removal. And in addition, that whenever you're doing any type of earth removal, it requires a special permit from the zoning board. And I don't know why that also is not being required to be obtained. And let's see, what else? I think that's all I have for now. I'm sure there's more as I continue to read through the subdivisions. But again, my primary concern, it abuts conservation land. I'd be really concerned and curious on the impact of all the gravel and sand removal on the conservation land that it abuts in that area. I'm going to assume there's going to be some type of trickle flow or some type of effect on that as well. And just the sound. I work at home. I hear when the school buses drive by. I hear, matter of fact, I even called Carl because I thought construction had started. Turned out someone down the street was doing some work and I thought it was associated with this. And I was like, what's going on? Even that affected me. So it would be, if you're talking that kind of volume in any given day, it's just, I've now lost my peace and quiet. It's a wonderful, beautiful neighborhood. It is quiet. It is, I love it, like walking around there, you see the animals, you see everything. That's the other thing. I mean, you will see a horse walking down the road. You'll see the chickens in the road, the goats in the road, the dogs that get out, and that would be another serious concern with that kind of volume. That's just with the construction. Now you're also talking a subdivision with 24 more houses that now you've got volume, ongoing volume in that area of all the traffic associated with that. That's another 50 to 75 cars a day, assuming that each house has 2 cars, and you've got visitors, et cetera, that's on that road. And I appreciate that you think that it might just be limited to Plain Street, but it's not. It will be impact Lincoln Road also. I mean, that's just, we are people. We think if it's busy on that road, we're gonna take a shortcut over on this road. And Lincoln Road does not have the capacity either to be able to manage the increased traffic ongoing, not just during the construction, but afterwards. So those are things I'd like to the board to take into consideration. You have that within your purview and your power based on your own rules and regulations to make those types of requirements, or if nothing else, to require more studies to see what that impact would be in the area. And that's what I ask you guys to do.
Okay, I'll answer a few of them. The sidewalks, we can only do within the subdivision.
Actually, it says, page 42, V8, says that sidewalks shall be constructed within 1 1/4 mile of a playground, school, park, etc.
It doesn't say we connect, it says if you're within that far, you have to have the sidewalks in the subdivision.
No, with the surrounding area.
No, you're not reading it correctly, I'm sorry.
Okay, I don't want sidewalks anyway.
Yeah, well, we.
I don't want sidewalks anyway.
All right, as far as the grading of the lots, it was very clear, and we got back from town council that concurred. They can only, with us, dig out what they need to do the roads. If, whatever they do for the lots after, it's up to the individual lot owner, and if it exceeds 150 yards, either in or out, they have to go to the zoning board. So that's, each lot will have to go.
So, but if, you're saying I'm misreading it, where it says all lots and grades need to be considered as a whole?
You consider them as a whole, but there's another section that says removal of material, whatever, has to be dealt with just the roads itself.
But the grading all needs to be considered as a whole, so the
Grading of
concerns-
the roads, so to speak, because if.
All lots?
Well, I've already been through this, okay? And it's just with the road itself. If you had to do that, every guy would come in and level every property in the world. No, it's just within the road to build the road, but you have to consider the grading.
So, within
But
the
not of the
all
lots.
lots and grading within the
But we-
subdivision, right?
No, but we can't do the lots. We get 46 feet. Beyond that is not our concern. So that would be these lots what they're showing, okay? We can't touch those. However they want to do them, they
I'll
can do.
reread that and make sure I understand it correctly and probably ask more questions.
Okay.
But regardless, I just hope you guys take all that other thing. I'd
No.
like to see that pedestrian impact study.
Well, no, I'm not, I did
All the good stuff.
the little ones first for you. You bring up a good point that typically we don't have to deal with, because everybody's looking after it's done, not while it's going. Okay, and I deal with Boston stuff, and you gotta go to the Boston Traffic Department to do anything. And that's a good point. I would suggest that the applicants go visit Officer Luke Parlon, run by how you're gonna handle all this, because this is gonna be 2 years of truck traffic. He's just looking at it as subdivision done, can I see up that way, can I see up that way, I got 24 houses. This is a major piece of it, so I would expect to have a report back with the police on what they want or what they expect or so on. That make sense?
We'll reach out to him.
Can I just add something for you? So we did get a letter from town council that may clarify for you taking the fill out and what we were allowed and not allowed to look at.
Okay.
So that might help, rather than sitting, reading it and trying to decipher, because sometimes they give it here and take it back there, and so you might wanna, our secretary Kate is great, and I'm sure she could share that with you.
Absolutely. And then I'd also want to know what the notification process would be for the neighbors, because you guys requested that regarding the sound, et cetera, so I would also like to see what that notification process would look like.
Yeah, and question for you guys. Why don't you go the back door? Why do we gotta go out the front door? Go through Norfolk. You go to Tresca, it's like this. So for him, it's 6 of one, a half a dozen other. Ask John.
Could look at it tomorrow.
I know they won't like going down when they go just over Norfolk and make that little thing, but it's about the same. Matter of fact, you're gonna be on 115, he's probably closer, and guess what? There's no lights, except at 115 and 109, where he's gotta go the other way, he's hitting everything else. You do that, you don't go through, and as you're going up, I know the people on the other side are probably gonna hate me for it, but it widens out there too. It's no longer rural once you get beyond, up by Deerfield, it's just kinda like a road.
You want to okay the road, like,
We don't okay the routes, I mean, that's not up to us, we don't,
well, it's in the traffic.
yeah, I understand that, but I mean, you know, we're not gonna be policing it, but all I'm saying is,
Go that way.
Mr. Chair, I actually drove that route because there's a water crossing down there. I thought that bridge might be posted, but it isn't.
which one?
Going into Norfolk. After you go by Highland Lake, you go to the right.
Is it bridge? I'm thinking you come up by the cemetery. I don't think they're gonna wanna make that turn underneath the bridge.
No.
They can't, under the
Right.
railroad bridge. So
No,
they're gonna-
no, you'd be crazy to go
Yeah,
down
they're
that
gonna
road.
bear up the hill, go past the water plant and get to whatever that street is. And it ends up down by the cemetery, right? On 115? Or no, not 115, but ends up down that way.
You would end up, what is it, Cleveland Street?
Yeah, something like that. Take a look, if you look at where Trusker is compared to where you guys, it's almost
No,
like this.
I mean, we weren't necessarily trying to get the quickest route to Trescott, but I'll look tomorrow.
But it lessens the impact.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they go one way and come back the other,
No, just,
go all that way.
So you would, that goes out to Seekonk Street,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Seekonk.
and you take a left on Seekonk and go up to 115, that way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's, I don't think it's one, no, it's not 115, it's the road that Persian's on.
Needham Street.
Yeah,
Mention the cemetery.
yeah, yeah. And you take a right, and you're heading on up, right by Dunkin' Donuts, and you're home free.
Yeah,
Because
all right.
it's,
Norfolk's gonna love us.
well, but they won't even notice it, but,
No reason you can't.
Okay.
well, there's no scenic roads there.
Yeah.
Probably only give you half what you want for your gravel, because they gotta go up that little hill. But look at that, that lessens the impact on anything, like I said, if
Yeah, yeah.
Kyle, right, when they built the, I don't know why all of a sudden Lincoln Road was one, under the high power, tension lines and all that, but.
Cherry sheet money a long time ago, didn't have it. I don't know.
Okay. All right, anyone else have any questions, comments from the audience? Okay. Ma'am?
I think I have a question. Maybe we'll get an answer next week at Concom, I don't know. Or not, I don't know. Yeah, Betsy Dyer, 19 Lewis Avenue, also Conservation Commission. So it's interesting that this board is dealing with the gravel removal for the roads. But when you come before us for your stormwater management, you can't do it piecemeal, right? You've got to actually acknowledge the preparation.
Your plans show the entire lot's being prepared because you have to look at it as a whole.
Right.
Correct.
So we're not gonna see exactly this plan, we're gonna see
That's correct.
something different.
So you have
But
to-
you think you're not coming next week?
No, we're coming.
Oh, okay.
We have the land, we have the erosion control bylaw too. We're in there
Right.
for that, so we have 2 hearings.
Okay.
No, but yeah, she's correct. They're gonna look at it as the neighbor stated, as a whole.
No.
They have to look.
Yeah,
at
I
it.
understand for all your runoff and all that.
Right, they have to look at it that way.
Anyone else have questions, comments from the audience?
I'd like to know what boards they're going to.
Excuse me?
We know where they're gonna be going and what the boards are gonna be presenting at to get these special waivers and.
Okay, as far as I know, right now, they have a meeting with Concom,
Next
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night.
17th,
Is that conservation?
Yes.
That is Concom, and that's Wednesday.
the 17th,
13th?
Whatever.
13th.
it's advertised.
All right, awesome.
What is?
It's advertised, check it.
For what?
Thanks.
Check it.
Don't tell me.
13th, 7 o'clock.
That's not what the notice said.
No, it's not.
Cut it out.
So,
This will be the second time.
I hope they don't have it during the Patriots game, Rob.
But you're,
I am not kidding.
What, does it have a different date? 17th?
It's not our problem, but, you know, just-
Oops.
You saw it?
It's a Sunday.
It was a typo.
It was a typo.
no such thing as a typo on a notice.
No, no,
It's a scrivener's error, it's either, so,
This is the second notice, there. You've already had one wrong.
I'm going for two, I guess, I don't know.
It's not us.
It's not us either.
It's not her.
It's not you, it's me.
They have, Rob, they have
Probably
the
have a
notice.
copy with them.
That's
You have the notice?
No, my brother had it, it says the 17th, that's a Sunday. But that's a Sunday, it's the 13th, we've called, it's the 13th at 7 o'clock. But they gave them.
But they, you can't do that.
They
No,
can't.
no.
The wrong date?
Yeah.
Did they send you another letter saying the
I don't know, I
13th?
didn't ask my brother.
Write a letter and say you weren't properly notified.
Oh, that's right, I forgot. I'll set up a meeting with me, you, and Paul Barry tomorrow.
I won't be there.
Yes, you will.
I'll be on.
You wanna get paid?
I won't be there. But
Yeah,
I'll
you-
call in.
Okay, all right, so you got a little bit to do. We need extension, Kate?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, where are you going with it?
well, like, you know, you're not gonna get to the next, then the what, not October, first week of November?
November 4th.
Yeah, I mean, that's enough time, I would say. Well, wait a minute, how long's your vacation?
Just a weekend. Just going to see my boy.
Oh, just a weekend? Oh, okay.
I haven't seen him in a year. He
No.
misses me.
Wouldn't.
Bring you
I want to go jump out of planes with him, Jack.
You're crazy.
My kid was,
He is. That's his new hobby this summer.
what's he do?
Skydiving. Out in Denver.
Oh, that's my son does for the Marines.
That's not the best.
Because a pandemic isn't dangerous
200
enough.
jumps this year.
He's up to, he's almost a master 700, plus when he jumps out of the back of C-40s,
We're
140s.
gonna go, he goes, yeah, we'll go to the airport. You can see me jumping. Maybe you'll get excited enough that you'll wanna come up and jump with me. Never happened.
Oh, I was gonna go, but I couldn't do it.
I can't do it.
No, I can't, because I can't be over 240 pounds.
Break your hip.
I thought you were like 235.
It would break my hip again.
You're right, you can't be over, he's right, because one of his friends wants to go and he's on a diet. He wants to go there bad.
How many years has your son had?
What?
How many years has he been?
9, 10, no, 2011, this is his 10th year.
Life of
Yeah. I think he'll be in Taiwan soon, unfortunately.
710 is Garden Estates,
Garden Estates, 710. What's that?
Washington Street, La Palace.
New, do 705.
Washington Street with who?
La Palace is that 6-lot subdivision on La
Oh,
Palace.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh.
Polis?
Oh, Washington, oh, I got you, okay.
705 is
Oh,
Bristol.
leave it alone.
The what, the 4th?
Yeah, we're idiot.
Well, we can do it then, if that's the 4th. Okay, what are we up through, though, on, what do I need for, end of November?
Yeah, but I
Okay,
don't know where you're going with this. What are you?
First week, then.
7:15, 7:20?
7:15. But I can't, I don't, he's gonna give us this first.
Well,
All right, I need extension,
The what?
30th.
31st November.
There's no 31st.
There is no 30.
There is no
No,
17th or 18th.
17th Concom meeting either.
30th.
You're killing poor Betsy.
There's still no 31st.
Stop talking about it.
Can we give it to the 4th and then we'll talk about it at the
No.
4th?
No.
The hearing's the 4th?
No, we don't talk, because if, we can't get it filed if we have to without an extension. What, you're gonna have Liz Gaffey sitting there waiting for us? No, we get it to the end of the month, John, we've done this
I'm
forever.
gonna give them more than the 4th because if something happens, they can't have the meeting in the fall.
I see.
They gotta have at least a little
If
buffer.
we had a hurricane, if, winter, we even had to have a meeting, so you give us the extension, and you're on the 4th. If you get your, together on the 4th, then you're all set.
Just what together on the 4th?
Stop.
What's the,
That's just,
well, what's the
November
next
30th.
meeting, since we can't decide
18th.
this?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay, what's fine?
Through the end of November.
through the end of 31st, John?
30th.
November 30th.
Very good.
We've had
Okay.
enough dates for that.
I'll make a motion to allow the applicant up through, do I want it per John or you? Up through November 30th.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right. What's the date on the 4th, Kate?
November 4th at 7:15.
Okay.
7:15.
7:15 on November 4th. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
It used to be easy. What happened? No kidding.
It's frail.
We can't go to the end, like the end of November.
Look at him. You lost like 15 pounds, you don't weigh nothing.
Hey, Rob, what's his other one? Is his other hip screwed up?
I like this one like that.
He only had one, I know that. Okay. Now,
Can't jump over 240.
All right, we haven't adjourned, people. Take it outside.
he's up to 600, you'd be master, he has his own shoot.
Yeah, well, we still have a
And but when
master
he was in
plan.
California, it's like only $20 to go, it's cheap.
Yeah, you know what he spends all his money on? He lives in a simulator once a week.
Oh, they go for free. I went and did that in San Diego. They're supposed to build one at the stadium. All it is 100 miles an hour. That's not much. Wind. And if you stand like this, I haven't. Yeah, you're holding home.
Well, we didn't come up to
But as soon as you lean like this, it blows you like that. The hardest part is keep your head up. But as my son said, Rob, you were in that for
Still on
5
the
minutes.
air.
That's equal to like 100 jumps because you're.
Meeting is still going.
To make sure none of my fellow basketball players are coming.
Hey, Rob, take it outside.
All right, Kate.
Okay.
All right, we got just one last. What?
You have any stuff for me?
Yeah, master plan update. Kate passed out the schedule.
So, I asked if this could be on the agenda, because I thought it was important that Phil and I keep you updated on what's going on. And Jack responded and said he'd like to put it on each agenda. If we have something to report, we have something to report, and if we don't, we don't, so that way you guys are all aware and up to speed, because it's our task as a board. So just a quick, and Phil can jump in after me and let me know, I missed anything, but basically I just wanted to share with you guys, I think it's important, the schedule, the timeline. I think it's really important, the community forums. We, as we get closer, they're going to have a flyer, we can post online, we can post it around town, and I think Phil will agree with me that the biggest thing we can do is really get all people, as many as we know. The consultant was funny, she said, invite 5 you love and 5 you don't love. And, just because we want diverse points of view, we want to hear from everyone. So,
The whole meeting was about engagement, how to
Yes.
engage, and talking about who are the people who we don't often get out, how do we get them, so.
and it was a good meeting, I think.
Yeah,
It was really
I
good, it
agree.
lasted a little over 2 hours, and it was lots of input.
And everyone was there who had already been appointed.
Phil and I agreed to ask Pat Duchesne's, and he was gracious enough to accept, to be our recording, I'm calling it a recording secretary, but it's more than that. He'll post the meetings, he will take the minutes and post the minutes, and then he's manning a Dropbox for us so that we will have all the documents available so that everyone can share them and see what's most recent. We spoke about engaging a broad spectrum in the community, we already said that. So we haven't yet chosen chair and co-chair, and personally, I think it would be great if Phil and I work together as co-chairs, because I think that because it falls on planning board, it's important that we, are hands-on with it, so we can report back and we make it a success and we get it accepted by the board. That being said, we haven't gotten to that point yet, And I had something else, and I lost it. Oh, and I had spoken, I looked back at past ones, and that was how it was done. So, and I talked to people who were involved in the past ones to try and get ideas of what worked and didn't work. And that was how it was done, it was 2 members from the planning board. So, other than that, I think at this point, it is important for all of us to be involved, and even though the steering committee is a committee, I think it's important that we all are engaged and involved, because I think this is something we really all want to get our hands dirty and work together on.
And they're gonna be creating a webpage, so for public information will be the webpage, for the internal information for the committee will be the Dropbox.
I have 2 questions. Is there any issues with other members of the planning board going to any public?
I had the same questions.
Yeah, so,
I think because it's a public meeting and it's posted, it's okay, but Jack, am I correct?
Well, you're not taking any votes. And I used to
but
argue-
eventually, we're gonna vote on the master
Yeah,
plan.
you're gonna vote on it, but if I
That'll
give,
be here at
I used to argue one Selectman Hamilton about this. Whoa, you can't be in the same, what happens, we're all at the Patriots game?
Yeah, no, you can be in the same room, but we would actually be discussing something that we would actually be voting on.
But it's
So-
more, so I think, so having, and I'm basing this on my past participation,
We'll
okay?
ask. I think we'll ask.
So it
Yeah.
was, I think we
We'll
should ask, but based on my when I participated last time, I would think it would be fine, because first of all, I remember more than 2 members there. Second of all, you're not voting, the community forums, you're not voting, you are sharing ideas
Community member.
and discussing things.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like an open conversation, you're not voting or determining really anything, they'll have like, in the past, they had big boards, and you break up into groups, and they, what do you think of this? What do you find as your favorite places? What do you, things like that, and they write it on the board, so it's more that you're spitting out ideas and collaborating.
And I think in the open meeting materials, it addresses that. But
Yeah.
we should check it out, but I'm pretty sure
Okay.
it actually
Check
has
it
a little
out.
part about that,
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
because
I think
I
it
don't
would
wanna
be
go
good.
if I shouldn't go.
Well, you also wanna be advised on, maybe there's something that may put you over the edge,
Yeah.
that you shouldn't be saying or asking or pushing. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean?
So
Yeah.
calling
We'll
me-
ask
For guidelines.
guidelines,
Yeah.
yeah.
I would
Yeah, they-
Well,
appreciate
they
as a
answer.
planning board member, I say this rather than as a
I think you,
Walpole citizen, I say
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
You don't stand as a member, you're making your comments as a public citizen.
It's kind of like being at a town meeting.
right.
Yeah.
Many of us are at
Yeah,
town
there's
meeting.
no
We're
Oh,
also-
it's
open
true,
meeting.
yeah.
Yeah, so then, if it is okay, is it possible for the whole board to have access to this Dropbox to like review documents as you go and
I
things
think
like
that's
that?
another good question to ask.
Okay, if you could,
Just
Yeah.
guidelines.
That's a
both
reasonable,
ask.
reasonable request.
Yeah, okay,
Unless you guys bring your updated report.
Yeah, like this was in the Dropbox, I shared it,
Yeah.
so
yeah.
if we
I mean, it's
could,
helpful to
we
hear from
could-
you exactly, but
we
also
could do that every
sometimes
meeting too. If
I like to see
If you don't
papers.
have access to the Dropbox, we could bring documents to every meeting, that could be part of our update, maybe.
Yeah, that could be a
So-
lot of printing potentially, but
Yeah.
just a question.
All right.
What do you think about working together?
That would work, I think, would be.
I think it,
Alright.
we don't
Well,
always
I am
agree
saying
on
no.
everything.
I mean,
Do you know what I mean? But that's good.
It'll be up to the committee to vote for
Different
the
viewpoints.
Yeah.
chairs, that's it, but
Well, no, I don't agree with that, because we are the planning board, this is our thing. They're actually independent, just to bring it together. And this actually comes back to us for a vote, because I don't want somebody who was, say, on the Trails Committee, nothing against them, but I'm just picking one that kind of spearheaded this. This is our thing.
It should be one or both of you
Yes.
as the chair.
And
And I think, I like the idea of co-chairs, only because you got enough stuff to do that you're over here, she's over here, not just piling on, but
Or in the case one can't be
Yeah.
somewhere,
Yeah,
the other
and
one is, yeah.
you might be good at something
and already
who's gonna have
Katie's
the...
helping on the school, some of the
well, all I did was
organization.
send a couple
And then you
emails,
should just
but,
assign everybody, like you get these number of people and he gets like this water guy.
No. Don't start that. So,
Hi, John, how you doing?
yeah, and that, to add to what Phil just said, so it's great too, we're engaging all ages. We've reached out to the high school and they're going to be involved too, so, and that's great because even if that age, those kids move or, move on for a time and come back or whatever it may be, you're always gonna have that age group present. So it's good to hear what they like and what they want,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so it's
very
great to have all ages.
Very, very important.
Yeah.
Okay?
Make a motion to adjourn?
Oh, can I just make, I won't go into any details because it's late, but I just want to put on the agenda for next meeting. I would like to make a proposal for how to put all of the materials that, an applicant provides for a project, to get them online, make it very accessible, not to only to us, but also the public. And I have a proposal for a two-phase step. One is to do things fairly quickly, and then I've talked to the town planner at Westwood. I think they have a really good model for how to do this. If we could do something like that, I think it would be something in everybody's interest. So
Sounds great.
for next week,
Yep.
or next meeting.
Next time, okay. Make a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.